Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. I'm Matt Dillahunty. Welcome. Thank you for joining me here on the hang up right here on the line. Lindsey Graham died, and his sister is now been appointed to take his seat. It's a widow's privilege thing. And for all the people expressing outrage and sharing it on social media, stop. You make us look pretty stupid. You make us look like we don't understand that this type of thing happens many times. I think there's like 45 times where a widow is essentially taken over a deceased elected official's seat in Congress. And somebody was like, well, it's interesting that somebody with no experience in the Senate can come in and do the job on 24 hours notice. Yes, there's no experience required. Freshman representatives and senators come in without experience all the time. The only thing that's required is she be eligible. Now, different states have different requirements, and some of them require someone to be appointed from the same party. But especially in an election year, this is actually kind of a good thing to keep the death from messing up the election any more than it has to. The fact that his sister is filling in until January is a big nothing burger. So, by the way, is the ladybug stuff and the escort stuff. Yes, it was an open secret that he was a self-hating queer. But he was a terrible human being. The people who are saying don't speak ill of the dead, I'm not. I'm speaking ill of the guy while he was alive. He hasn't done shit to me since he died. But I'm not going to miss him. And I say good riddance. Let's move on and let's work on filling his seat with someone better. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, made a statement today in response to a defense spending request for the Department of War to essentially dramatically increase the Department of War's budget. And he gave a couple of different reasons for this. One is that we are fighting tyrants and terrorists around the world, and that we are fighting communism on our own shores. I'm not a communist. I have friends who are communists. I might be close to being a communist. At some point, I could become a communist. But we've been down this bullshit Red Scare before, where we learned the valuable lesson that your fear and ignorance and bigotry don't allow you to violate people's right and declare people as un-American for not holding the same views as you. But what's terrifying now is that if I become a communist, does that mean that you get to increase your military budget because now we need funding for the Department of War to combat me because there's one more communist exercising their rights as a citizen of this country and voting while there's still some option of voting? I would encourage everybody, based on the rumors that I'm hearing, to make sure you tune in. Not maybe don't tune in while it's happening, but watch the after commentary. I think it'd be nice if nobody tuned into Trump's speech that he's giving tomorrow, where the suspicion is he's going to make some claims about the 2020 election and declare Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff and some others to basically be illegitimate in the result of cheating. And it's worth remembering when this happens. A friend of mine posted I had it here, right here. This is what happened to his legal team after the 2020 election when he lost 60 different court cases in front of judges appointed by every living president. Jenna Ellis pled guilty for lying to the court. Kenneth Chesbrough lost his law license for lying to the court. John Eastman lost his law license for lying to the court. Oops. Rudy Giuliani lost his law license for lying to the court. They all were working together to try to overturn the 2020 election. They failed. Don't be duped by the big lie now. That's what I suspect he's going to be talking about, because they're going to be doing everything in their power to continue working to steal our democracy. In other news, ICE killed a few more people today or the last week or so, but I guess we just don't care anymore. Um, I mean, it's news for a little bit, and then it's on to the next thing. I don't even know all of them, and I don't know where all of them are. I was going to say there were two in the last week or so, but there was evidently like a third one in Florida, although I don't have the details. But the main one is the one, I mean, the one in Maine, which is also the main one that people are talking about. This individual, um, he didn't try to use his car as a weapon. They didn't even try to claim he tried to use his car as a weapon. What they said was he was fleeing. Well, he wasn't the subject of their warrant. They should not have stopped him. And they violated all good law enforcement procedures by he's fleeing, according to them, not attacking, and they shot into the vehicle. Generally speaking, law enforcement officers have grown to learn, and departments have grown to learn, you don't do that. This guy was here legally and working here legally and working legally. He was not the subject of the warrant. He was an innocent guy. And they shot him in the head in his car in front of his 3-year-old daughter. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the people who are trying to survive while looking suspicious get killed. The land of the free is less so, and the home of the brave sees them facing allegations of being violent extremists for daring to stand up for those very freedoms. When I was a Christian, I was a patriot. Not quite jingoistic, for sure, because God came first. I was a patriot. I served in the military for a little over 8 years. And even when I was at my most conservative, when I was a full-on Rush Limbaugh ditto head sitting out in my lunch break in my car listening to part of his 3-hour program, I would have easily spotted the corruption, the lies, the stupidity, and the grift that we're seeing right now. We are completely beholden to billionaire-fueled, pedo-protecting, democracy-stealing administration that is chaired by the dumbest and most corrupt president in history, who has earned more money in the first year or so of his second presidential term than he has in his entire life prior to this. We are completely beholden to them. They get to do whatever they want. We're still waiting on adequate proof of life for Mitch McConnell. What I don't know is why the Kentucky governor can't go down to the fucking hospital and talk to the man himself. Why can't the Kentucky governor, who's now put out an ultimatum of requiring a proof of life that goes beyond a picture holding a newspaper, which people are saying is a fake, and then they're saying it's a fake because it's a copy of something that doesn't exist, and it's the meme trolling that ends up happening, and the gullible have made it so that you can't get good information. Too many people are buying into too much stuff, but why can't the governor, I don't know, FaceTime him? I mean, that could be faked. I'd rather he go down to the actual hospital, but still waiting on that proof of life. The United States Senate voted 50 to 46 to support new Department of Defense stuff that would combine aspects of the United States military and the Israeli military for the current illegal war that has been going on for 5+ months without any approval from Congress. No, there is no accountability. Congress is either just saying yes or completely inefficient at getting anything done. Now, they voted in favor of it, but it didn't pass because it required 60 votes. But what that means is there were 50 people who are traitors to the United States of America. The Strait of Hormuz may or may not be open. We're not sure who's profiting off of it, but Iran just ended talks after our last bit of aggression, after Trump bragged about bombing. We're going to hit them hard today, tonight. We're going to hit them after that. And then we're going to go after this infrastructure. We're going to go after this. And Iran said, okay, we're done with the talks. And what are they doing now? They are launching a barrage of ballistic missiles at U.S. military targets in the area. Every individual who supported that bill is a traitor. Everyone bowing to the Israeli government and their demands and desires, while they may have incredibly decent intentions, and while we're all opposed to Hamas, they are supporting genocide. They are supporting corruption. They are supporting the very foreign powers that are working with the Billionaire Boys Club to control our country, steal your democracy, and do their best to control the world. But this stuff doesn't make sense to me. I'm former military. I'm former conservative, former fundamentalist evangelical. And I know that my views have changed, and definitely for the better, and I can defend that. But I can't imagine ever supporting any of this. I'm genuinely baffled every day at how so many of you can be so consistently irrational and gullible and evil and fail to see the basic reasoning that exposes what's going on. Can you defend it? Because when I was a Christian, I was part of the in this world but not of this world contingent. I was part of the all leaders are God appointed, render under Caesar that which is Caesar's, sell your belongings and give the money to the poor. I didn't follow that, but nobody does. That's the part of the Bible that I think you're going to get virtually everyone to admit that they definitely shrugged that one off, but they're really, really serious about all the rest of them. Going back to Old Testament stuff, what's Micah 6:8 say? It says that all the Lord asks of you is to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. Our job as Christians was to share the gospel, not impose it. Our job was to be a conduit for the Holy Spirit, not someone who referenced it as a prop. Our job was to be ready at all times to give the reason for the hope or faith that's within us and to do it with gentleness and respect. So if you're out there and you're a Christian, I'd love to know, do you support MAGA? Why or why not? If you support MAGA as a Christian, I'd love for you to explain how this is anything at all. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't buy into the Jesus was this hippy dippy socialist, blah, 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 and love the neighbor and turn the other cheek. And no, he also created a scourge and, went in and raided the temple, and he told people to go steal stuff, and he only allowed for divorce in the case of infidelity. The guy, if he existed, whatever stories and things are put into his mouth, I find the bulk of them to be immoral and vile. But he wasn't a kumbaya hippie, love everybody. But not all the ideas were absolutely vile. And not everything in the Bible or, within Christianity is vile. So if you're out there and you're supporting of MAGA, I'd love to know why. And if you're a Christian and you're not supporting MAGA, I'd love to know why and what you're doing to stand with those of us who are trying to oppose this. How are you cleaning up your own backyard? How are you removing the plank from your eye and your brother's eye within Christianity? And if you're a believer in some other supernatural claim, whether it's gods, ghosts, goblins, we'd love to know what evidence you have that should convince us. I am joined tonight by Dalton, the Bible guy, who can probably rattle off every verse I referenced, while I can only do Micah 6:8 and 1 Peter 3:15. But how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Man, I'm so happy to be here, and you could not have said it better. I recently had a friend whose house burned down, but thanks to the atheist community on TikTok, we managed to like raise enough money for her to get a new place. Meanwhile, the Christians were messaging her, laughing and telling her that this was a punishment from God for being an atheist. It's crazy.
Wow. It's weird how God punishes the people they want punished in the way that they see.
Not to mention that a few Christians also lost their house in this like collective townhouse fire, but let's not focus on that.
It's strange because, don't get me wrong, I'm not big on labels. I'm not fully sure what labels actually apply to me. Am I a socialist? Am I a soc dem? Am I a democratic socialist? Am I close to a communist? How far left am I? I don't care. I have specific views on issues, and it seems like no matter what label I end up adopting, it's problematic for somebody until we actually sit down and talk about, hey, what's my position? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, well I'm for that. Uh, and this is the same way when you talk to some MAGA folks, when they're like, when you were, if you don't tell them what party, and you're like, hey, which of these two processes and outcomes would you prefer? They're overwhelmingly in support of the policies that they're voting against. It's like I've seen the videos before. People like they'll show up and they'll have a Bible, but they'll have it in a Quran uh, cover, bookbind cover, and they'll read from this and they'll say, I want to read you something from the Quran, and they'll read something absolutely vile, and they'll get the Christian to be like, oh yeah, that's terrible, that's terrible. And then they go, oh, I'm sorry, it was actually the Bible. And it's a great little trick that exposes them. On the other hand, all it does is show that we are tribal. And if as long as we think something is the other tribe, we're going to spin it that way. So socialism, multiculturalism, um, they're in favor of equality, just not actual equality. Like, I don't want those people to have the same rights and freedoms that I do. I don't want the people who support communistic ideas. And we need defense spending for them. And it's like we were talking about beforehand. If you've been in a
Quality
position
within
of
my
privilege,
group.
yeah. If you've been in a position where you're in a pretty privileged position, then all of a sudden equality starts to feel like persecution. And when you are part of a religion like Christianity, which I can't remember the verse off the top of my head, but when you have verses that are telling you you're going to be persecuted for my name's sake, it builds the sort of complex where you're expecting it. And now it's, if you feel, whether you're actually being persecuted or not, if you feel disparaged in any way, that's persecution. And all it does is reaffirm that you're the one doing it right. Like Satan, I remember hearing it from my relatives and people in church. Oh, let me tell you, Satan's been coming after me so hard lately. I've been trying to do so much right for the Lord, and Satan has just put stumbling block after stumbling block in front of me. But you know what? I'm happy to be persecuted for his name's sake, because my life is here to serve for the Holy Spirit, and I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's the power under salvation. Anyway, I can't keep going. I'll have to, I just took a shower. I don't want to have to do it again.
Whatever
Or
helps
at least
one
not right
feel
now.
like they're the hero of the story, for sure. And when you believe so ardently that you are the persecuted group, when you're at the top of the food chain, suddenly your persecutor has to be the other group. So now you start oppressing these minorities and other groups, who are actually the oppressed. And it's insane how Christians have become the very thing that they you know, fought against back in the early days.
Yep. Hey, if you're ready, we can start digging in on some calls. We're starting to get calls lined up. Lines are open. If you call 720-619-2288, that will get you through. I think we have probably still somewhere between 4 and 6 lines still open right now, but we already have a couple callers on. You can also go to the link down below the stream, and that will get you a link to call in studio so that you can call on your PC. Please remember, handful of things. Well, there's a delay. There's some tech problems. We're probably going to have to pause. We're probably going to have to interrupt. We'd like there to be clarity. I am still in my year of Zen, which means Dalton's going to be the only one who yells at somebody. Probably not the only one who curses, but I won't be yelling or losing my shit. I do know a little bit more than merely language and logic, especially if we're going to end up talking about religion. But what I may not know enough about your version of your religion. And so we're going to both ask questions, try to get some clarification. And are you able to explain what you believe and why you think we should believe it as well in a way that virtually anyone can understand? Can you do it without, I don't know, 23 lengthy anecdotes? Can you do it without a bunch of specialized knowledge and jargon? I mean, after all, if you think that people were justified, by the way, if you're somebody who doesn't think people had a warrant to believe in God, let's say 1,000 years ago, but they do now, I'd love to hear why that's the case. But if you think people were justified 1,000 years ago, then you don't need to come in with philosophical spins and quantum mishmash or whatever else. But I still want you to give whatever your honest reason is that you think you're compelled to, or that you think should compel us. So I'm gonna stick with my Zen mode. It's a whole year. Don't ask if it's still going. Yep, it's still going. And if I lose it, I'm gonna donate $50 to some charity out there. But we have callers lining up right now.
Yeah, look at all these callers. This is fantastic. I usually have to wait a whole hour to get something like this. So this is fantastic.
It's good stuff. And we're going to be prioritizing theists. So if you're an atheist and you're currently on hold, you may end up being on hold for the entirety of the show. I just need you to make sure you're ready for that. But we're going to take Art first. Art is unsure whether he's a theist or an atheist. Pronouns are he, him. How are you, Art? You're on the air with Dalton and me.
I'm doing good. I hope I can keep up with you. It's a little late over here, so I'll do my best to be clear, like you asked, and keep it simple.
Okie dokie. How can we help?
Okay, so I have seen you say many times that faith and intuition are not a path to truth, and you often follow up that reason is a path to truth. And I think that deserves some serious pushback. Particularly,
okay. What I've said,
as
my position is that faith is not a reliable path to truth. But to the extent that we have any path to truth, logical reasoning, logical arguments supported by evidence is the single most consistently reliable path to an accurate model of reality that we have. I don't know if we have access to capital T truth, if that makes sense.
Okay, I've taken notes. I've updated so I don't misrepresent what you've said. Thank you for clarifying. You, as a magician, it's clear that it's easy to use what appears to be logic and reason to bring people to falsehood. And I think people have been scammed and taken in by shady businesses and made to sign bad contracts or take bad loans, all with math and proof and logic and reason as they were able to consume it. So
well,
while
the fact that somebody
take your nuance that
hang on, the fact that somebody makes an argument that convinces someone doesn't mean that they have made a rational argument. They might have made people become convinced for fallacious reasoning. Where did you go?
Oh,
All right. We'll see if we can get Art to call back. Okay. I'll wait till to see if Art gets back. But yeah, performing as a magician, which I'll be at NanoCon at the end of this month, the final weekend of this month, the first weekend of next month. I'll be there performing an entire magic show with Q&A. I have new stuff, new props, and some old stuff that I just love doing. But it would be a mistake to say that I am, when I'm doing, like, so for example, one of the easiest little magic tricks, pull your finger up like that. If you can't see the screen, don't worry, you didn't miss anything. I'm not using logic to fool you. I'm exploiting your thought processes. Magicians know something that you might not know, or they know something about how you're going to try to solve a problem, and they intentionally manipulate you so that you solve it incorrectly. That's not logic, as in the reliable path to truth. That's flawed logic. That's flawed reasoning. That's exposing the holes in how we think about things. But yeah, if you think there's a good case to be made that faith and intuition are in fact reliable paths to truth, I'm open for you to make the case. I just don't understand at all. I mean, as a magician, everything you said about doing magic struck me as you don't know a thing about magic, but I might be misunderstanding what you're saying.
Yeah, I've
But
never once thought of reason as being as being why people might get duped into the trick. I always thought it was because of gullibility and not reason.
yeah, it is actually closer to exploiting their faith, their unwarranted confidence that isn't supported by evidence that this is an ordinary deck of cards, or there's not a mirror, or there's, whatever, however you imagine the trick is going to be done. And basically, a lot of it comes down to assumptions where, like, if you've seen my hands, there's an assumption that there's no way I can get my hands into a position to do anything weird like that. And yet, by understanding how to focus and refocus attention, by understanding how long it takes you to think, by masking smaller movements with larger movements, there's tons of different, it's all psychology. And so it's not, Art's back.
Fantastic.
All right, here we go. Welcome back, Art. I don't know how much of that you heard, but please continue.
I just caught the tail end of how magic is mostly psychology. I guess
Yes.
you predicted a prophecy that we'd have technical problems. Apologies for that. So the reason works on people who understand it. It's a tool. And you can use complex mathematics. You can use physics to prove things according to evidence. But you're always falling back on some arbitrary level of faith or intuition or good enough. Even
No, we're not.
Hard scientific discoveries, they'll say they've proved it to 6 nines of probability, or it has
that's not falling back on faith. To recognize that we have an accuracy level doesn't mean we're falling back on faith. Faith is when you faith is the excuse you give when you don't have a good reason to believe something is true or likely true. When a scientific finding says we have a confidence of 92%, it doesn't mean that we're exercising 8% faith. No, we are 92% confident. The wise man proportions his confidence to the evidence. Science doesn't make proclamations of truth, and at no point are we talking about any sort of confirmation to absolute certainty. I don't have to, and neither does science, fall back on faith at all. The closest we get is accepting axioms about some sort of uniformity or consistency in the world, and we do that as a pragmatic thing.
Yes, it's the pragmatic that's important. And when scientific papers say that it was discovered to statistical significance, there's some arbitrary cutoff for what they mean is statistically significant. 85%,
Well, within
95%.
within various disciplines, experts have, yes, constructed what p-values represent statistical significance. How does this in any way show that faith or intuition are reliable paths to truth?
Okay, so please give me about 20 seconds here. The nuance that some scientific certainty has backing it a level of uncertainty. When we say we know this or we know that, or this medication works and it was clinically tested, there is some level of uncertainty in that claim. But behaviorally, it is brought forth in a binary fashion, and especially for the majority of people who are experiencing it, they need to just take it on faith or authority that the right work was done. And sometimes we discover
those
the
aren't
right
the
work
same
was
thing.
not done. Sorry, again?
So you said the nuance that some scientific certainty has backing at a level of uncertainty. We know this, we know that, the medicine works, it's been clinically tested. There's some level of uncertainty, but it's brought forth as a binary. They need to take it on faith, the people who, well, I'm not quite sure. You said faith or authority. First of all, relying on faith or authority isn't the same thing, and it's not a fallacious appeal to authority. When I accept the findings of science, my confidence level is proportionate to the evidence supporting it, the extent to which I understand it, and at no point am I falling into a fallacious appeal to authority or reliance on authority. I'm relying on the data and what is most probably. The fact that there are people out there who still think that science is peddling uncertainties means that we need to do a better job of teaching science. That doesn't do anything to show that intuition or faith are ever a reliable path to truth.
I think we're speaking a little bit at cross purposes between an ideal situation and the pragmatics. In real life, a person goes to their medical practitioner, the doctor says, this is the medication to treat your specific situation.
Art. Yes, people are going to trust their doctor because they have good reason to, and because they may not have another option. That is not faith as a path to truth. That is a pragmatic realization that I'm not a doctor and don't know enough, but this person is. And I have confidence in both their training, their education, their history doing this, the fact that they're backed and licensed and protected by medical boards, the fact that I live in a country that will try to make sure that I have decent experts. The fact that we have confidence in the lack of in a condition without certainty does not mean that we are exercising faith. It just means that we have confidence in the face of a lack of certainty.
Can everything you practically said about the doctor, how you have to just deal with the facts of complicated life, be said about a believer who says, I go to my church leader and the government has officially said this is a church and millions of people believe it.
No. Nothing that I said about reliance on medical and scientific authorities applies to religious authorities. Religious authorities have never demonstrated any actual expertise in the true aspect of their religion. They might know their holy book. They might be trained in the particular machinations of a particular religion. But when the government says, ooh, this is a religion, they're only saying it qualifies as a religion for tax purposes. The government is in no way saying, oh, this is truly a true religion. And it's ridiculous to suggest otherwise. To suggest that some Yahoo who claims to have a mystical experience that they can't demonstrate is now somehow an expert on a par with the doctor that performed a triple bypass on my heart is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard.
Yeah, there's no veritability to the idea that faith healers are actually able to cure anyone. There's no known mechanism. It seems that people seem to get cured at the same rate as chance. It's not even remotely the same as
Or
medicine.
worse.
Oh yeah.
Well,
So how can you make a case
the
since we've now been waiting, since we've now
you.
been waiting and you've decided to shit on science and falsely prop up religion, I'm still waiting for you to demonstrate that faith and intuition are reliable paths of truth. How can you test faith to determine how accurate it is?
I'm making the claim that the same mechanisms you use for reason, people use with what you call faith. And just like you and I are not medical doctors, so we have to defer our own understanding. We don't read the scientific papers. We just listen to what our doctor says. It is analogous that a person says, I am not a theological expert. I do not have an understanding of how this universe functions.
I'm sorry, Art. How do you demonstrate that someone has an expertise in the real theology?
The person who isn't qualified to recognize it can't test it either. Just like the person
I'm sorry, that's not my fault. I'm sorry, Art. I'm sorry, this is confusing and difficult. But saying that the people who don't understand it can't test it either is just an admission that the people who claim they do understand it also can't test it. So my question remains, how can you test the accuracy of faith? Is it possible, yes or no?
We're both in agreement that there
I'm sorry, you broke up there, and so we didn't get to hear any of that. Is it possible, yes or no, to verify how accurate one's faith is?
Just a second.
I'm sorry, Art. For some reason, we're not hearing you. So yeah, is it possible to verify how accurate one's faith is?
I'll give you a no. So that
okay. If it's not possible to verify how accurate one's faith is, then your entire position has just been debunked by your answer. You cannot say that faith is a reliable path to truth if you admit there's no way to verify when it's true, when it's accurate.
Can we ask the same question
with the
about
science?
reason?
I can with the science, I can, scientific papers are put out, they're made public, anyone can read them, you can fact check the information for yourself. I'm not able to do that with faith.
Theological papers are debated in conferences.
So no. Theological papers being debated in conferences is not peer review because there's nobody who's demonstrated any expertise. When you have scientific studies, there are people, entire disciplines, with demonstrated expertise that is independently verifiable. Science is not a subjective, I don't know why you're speaking. Science is not a subjective matter of opinion. Science is an intentional attempt to remove subjective assessments. The fact that you can get a bunch of delusional people together to agree that their unfalsifiable, untestable delusion is the one that they prefer, it doesn't put it on a par with science.
How does one demonstrate expertise?
I'm sorry. Something's going on with your audio, and it keeps coming in like mid-sentence for you, and you keep trying to talk over us. And for some reason, you seem to think that religious faith is just as reliable as science. And I think there's more broken than just your microphone.
Okay, so I'll start every sentence so that the noise cancellation doesn't cut me off and ask, how can one demonstrate expertise?
Demonstrating expertise is by testing and by doing a knowledge that is consistent with both the scientific consensus of the recognized experts that already exist in conjunction with and in agreement with all of the available evidence. It's just like the same way that something goes from being a hypothesis to being a theory. A theory is the graduation point of science. A hypothesis is a proposed explanation for observations. And once it's been tested and subjected to peer review and independent duplication to confirm the results, then you have a body of consensus knowledge that is completely consistent with the facts. And if somebody finds facts that aren't consistent with that, then you can use that to potentially counter it. Science is testable in every sense of the word. That's one of the key aspects. Faith is not testable by your own admission. I don't know why we're still discussing this, because you've now said that faith is untestable, which means if you claim that it is accurate, you're delusional.
If a scientist makes a claim, we're able to makes a hypothesis. We're able to put that hypothesis to the test to see whether or not it is reliable and true. Can we do the same thing with like a theologist a theologian who makes a claim about the nature of God or angels? Are we able to put their hypothesis to the test in some verifiable manner?
I'd like to back up a second and point out that Matt's answer about how we test scientific claims is we use science. And there's something of begging the question to say,
No,
the
it's
way
not.
to-
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
You don't
Science.
like it when you're interrupted.
Science.
So
I'm just going to. I'm going to go ahead and mute you because you. Okay. I'm not going to mute you. Here we go. Science is a collection of methods that have consistently demonstrated their reliability. You know why we boil things, why we measure things with thermometers, why we come up with more and better devices to measure things? It's because that removes the bias, which is the entire focus of the discipline, and it is independently verifiable. Nothing about any religion, any God, any supernatural claim is testable, falsifiable, or independently verifiable, which is why even within Christianity, even within a collection of people who are pointing to the same 66 books, there are over 1,000 different denominations that disagree on every single point of doctrine. And every single time that we've attempted to test the efficacy of prayer, it fails, or anything else in the realm. It is Art. I'm struggling because I don't know how anybody can seriously sit here and acknowledge that faith isn't testable and then try to pretend it's as reliable as science when you admit that you have no way to verify how reliable it is. We can tell how reliable sciences are. That's part of why one particular study gets included as science and another particular study doesn't. It's why there are things like pseudosciences, the various homeopathy, because homeopathy has been tested and it's fake, it's a fraud, it's bullshit, and so is Reiki and any number of other things. And it's not because they don't comply with science, it's because they do not demonstrate reliable, testable results that are independently verifiable. Science isn't some orthodoxy and your religion just didn't make it. No, science is every single method that can, in fact, be tested, falsified, and produce consistently reliable, independently verifiable results. That gets to be science. If any religion, if any faith-based discipline could actually verify it, that would be a science. It would be an entirely new discipline of science. I'm sorry that your religion and your faith don't qualify by your own admission. But if you sit here and just keep attacking science and pretending that science is just as gullible as you are, I'm going to have to let you go.
Well, I didn't realize that you would use the Socratic method so hard by taking an answer that you extracted from me and browbeat me with it this many
I'm
times.
sorry. I didn't know
retract
you were going to
anything.
whine like a little baby when you got exposed for advocating for faith and then admitting that you have no way of testing it. You want to cry harder?
Yes, I do want to retract what you keep saying is an admission. When I said I would give you a no after you forced a yes or no, when the answer is more complex. And everybody knows
The
that
answer
this,
is not more complex. The answer is not more
your wife,
complex.
you
That
must answer yes
the
or
answer
no,
is not more
is not a
complex.
reasonable
That's
way.
an absolute lie. That you're lying because something is either testable or it is not, correct?
You're setting it as if I have to answer
No, 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 no,
quickly and
no.
only with
No,
yes
no,
or
no.
no.
I'm sorry. This is a
And
basic
this
logic
is a
101
deep
test that you're
question.
failing.
No,
Is it?
no,
Listen,
basic logic 101
listen very carefully because
fails
you're
many
either going to
times
look
in
really,
class.
really stupid here in a second, or you're going to wake
I'm not
up.
worried about looking stupid. Looking
I know
stupid is
you're not
not
worried about looking stupid, but I'm worried about you wasting more of my fucking time. So here, let me mute you so that I can maintain my zen. Here's the simple question. Is it true that everything is either testable or not testable? Are those the only two categories that something can be in? The testable and not testable categories. Are those the only two categories? Yes or no?
No. Those are not the only
What
two
is
categories.
okay? So let me explain this to you because I'm sorry. Let me explain this to you because you just denied that a direct logical negation of A and not A is in fact exhaustive.
And
Could
Gödel
possibly
showed
be
that
the third
not every
option.
statement has a truth or false value. Every
I didn't say
sufficiently
no.
system
Art.
does not
I
have
didn't say
this
true or
truth
false. I didn't
or
say true or false. I said A or not A. If everything is either A or not A,
false.
correct?
That only works if A is a proposition
Nope.
that has a truth
No, it
value.
doesn't. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry, you're just completely wrong.
No, then
Everything
I'm
is
going to
either
have to
A.
educate you.
Okay, I'm going to mute you and then I'm going to school you like the little whiny, confused person you are. Everything is either true or not true, but everything is not either true or false. What did he say? How can that be? It's because there are subtleties in language that you are playing with. And the way we avoid those subtleties in language is by saying things like A and not A. The law of identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle demonstrate that everything is either A or not A, and nothing is neither or both. That's the entirety of identity, non-contradiction, excluded middle, which means that something is either true or not true. That doesn't mean that everything is true or false, because some things don't have a truth value that is discernible. An apple is not true because an apple doesn't qualify for a truth value, because a truth value is attributed to a specific category of things. But it is the case that everything is either testable or not testable. And you have to sit there and define testable. What is testable? The way we're using testable, it means this is a proposition that can be investigated, verified, and attempted falsification. So if you said, is a coconut testable? No, because a coconut isn't a proposition that can be verified or falsified. Everything is either testable or not testable. There's nothing you can point to or name that doesn't fall into one of those categories. You want to pretend, oh, no. You can't ask whether this is testable or not because this isn't even in the category of things that could be testable. Not my fucking problem. You're the one that's here advocating for things that aren't in the testable category. And you know what that makes them? Not testable. So let's go ahead and wrap this up, Art.
It's pretty simple to me.
Okay, so just as a nuance of language, you can't say apple is true. Can you help me a second? What was your example with the true or not true?
Is an apple true or not true?
Right. So what you can do is you can say, thanks to Gödel's incompleteness theorem, you can say either apple is true or not apple is true. But you cannot say apple is not true. It's important where you put the not. Either the whole statement.
Yes, that's what I was just
isn't
lecturing
true.
you on, that it's important where you put the not. So everything either fits into the category of things that are true, or they fit into the category of things that are not true. And an apple fits into the category of things that are not true.
Either it's true that they fit into that category, or it's not true that they fit into that category. But
so now you actually agree with me that it's either true that they're in that category, or it's not true that they're in that category. Thank you.
Which doesn't put them into the other category.
Say goodbye. Say goodbye.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. I think you were a little bit too harsh, especially when I was sincerely
I was
trying.
a little bit too harsh? Did your panties get in a twist? I was a little too harsh. I'm so sorry. Goodbye. So, all right, that was a bit of fun. This is really strange because the whole purpose here was to show that faith and intuition are reliable. And instead, all he did was deny the foundations of logic and try and shit on science.
Man, we went very, very wrong somewhere in our education system.
Let's get on, because I don't want to lose a good caller, and I want you in here on this. So Josh is calling from Missouri. I'm from Missouri. Josh, I don't know if we've spoken before, but I was born in Gladstone and then spent some time in the St. Charles area as well. But Josh is a theist, pronouns are he, him, and says we do need God or our beliefs will change wildly over time. Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hey, good. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, that's interesting. I live about 5 minutes away from Gladstone, over in Platte County, but yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Oh, you out by Platte City?
No, I'm actually in Kansas City, in Platte County, though. But yeah, about 5 minutes from Gladstone. So I didn't know you were from
your audio is really bad. So apologies in advance. We might have to interrupt.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, sorry about that.
But this seems like a good reason why I would not want to have God. If having God results in me becoming static in my beliefs and never changing, that sounds like a pretty good reason that I don't need God if it's going to make me stagnant.
I don't think it's
Oh, you're cutting out really bad.
That's what wisdom and maturity are.
Could you try that again? You cut out for a second there.
I was just saying life experience does change you, but some things make you who you are, right? Like you don't want to think that, 20 years from now you might be supporting mass murder or something like that, right?
Sure, but I'm not in danger of that without God.
What if you were supporting mass murder 20 years ago and you got better?
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is, I guess you guys would agree there is more stability with a given, when you have a specific framework, right? That's been around for thousands of years. You have more stability. I wouldn't want stability if it was
a stable Nazi. I don't want stable fascist regimes.
When I was a Christian,
you do want some stability, correct?
No. What I want is truth. I want to have as an accurate and of an understanding of the world as I can. I don't want to be static. I don't want to stay. I'm not afraid of changing my mind.
Ironically enough, Josh, I used to be in favor of genocide when I was a Christian because I thought that there were instances in which it was okay for whole people groups to be wiped out, the Amalekites, and I've changed my mind, and that's because I got away from the God belief that I think it's no longer justified to wipe out a group of people.
What makes you believe that genocide is wrong? What led you to believe that genocide is morally wrong?
Yeah, by wrong is just a shorthand term that refers to something which is detrimental towards a specific goal, and my goal is the fairness and well-being of society. So genocide is detrimental towards that goal.
Well, you currently feel that, but there could crop up an instance where you believe genocide is actually helpful to that cause, right?
No, I cannot. Could you provide an argument for that? And what circumstance would genocide be?
Give me exactly what is
like, for
what
example,
is it your moral proposition
would,
that makes genocide always wrong? Explain that to me. Then I'm happy to give you an example where genocide would not be helpful.
Wiping out a people group will never be beneficial towards the well-being and fairness of that people group. Did you make an argument that it could be?
To the benefit of that people group? So what if there are two people groups that are in conflict with each other, right? Then there can be instances where it's beneficial to wipe out a whole people group. Like we wiped out all the Nazis. We imprisoned them. We executed them.
We killed Nazi babies? We were killing the babies of the Nazis?
Babies can't be Nazis, Bubba.
Yeah, so it would be wrong to just wipe. First off, the Nazis are not.
We executed Nazis. We killed Nazis. We executed them. We wiped them out because they were at odds with the Jews.
We didn't genocide their wives, their children. We didn't wipe them out, though, right? We would never ever justify that we should have, because of what the Nazis did, wiped out the German people.
I will say, though, that are you familiar with the veil of ignorance?
Yeah.
Cool. That's the justification. You cannot advocate for a system that allows for genocide without also you being at risk of the one being genocided. And so the rights that you afford to yourself to live and to interact with the world and put limitations on it, you must afford to others.
Now, you are far more likely to engage in, you, Josh, are far more likely to engage in genocidal actions than me or Matt if you thought that God, and you believe genuinely that God told you to band up with a group of Christians and go and wipe out this people group. Would you do it?
If I thought that God was talking to me, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you believe that God genuinely asked you to go forth and to wipe out a people group, would you acquiesce?
You that God was telling you to wipe out.
You'll need to restate all of that. I'm sorry, your phone messed up.
I would go see a psychiatrist if I thought God was telling me specifically to go wipe out a people group. What would you
well, no, in the hypothetical I gave you,
was telling you to wipe out a people group.
Well, no, in the hypothetical I gave you, you know that this is in fact God.
Okay, so in the hypothetical I'm giving you, you believe
Josh,
that
you
God
need to answer the hypothetical he just gave you, not come up with a different hypothetical.
I already answered it.
You haven't actually, Josh.
You created your own hypothetical.
Because Josh, yes, you said you'd go see a psychiatrist. So even if you knew that God was talking to you, you would just go see a psychiatrist?
I've heard you answer this.
I'm sorry, your phone just broke up again, but I suspect you were trying to. I'm sorry. The question's really simple. If you knew that God was telling you this, you would go see a psychiatrist. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And that's the exact same answer you've given in the past.
Okay. Well, first of all, your phone's still breaking up and mechanized, but the answer that I've given in the past is irrelevant. We're asking you for your view. Are you just parroting me? Because I don't need you to parrot me. I need you to defend your view.
The problem with your answer, Josh, is that by you saying that you would go see a psychologist, the only reason that I don't know why you're talking.
Nobody can understand a thing you're saying, Josh.
Yeah. The reason you would go to a psychologist is because you don't actually think God is talking to you. You think you're having a mental breakdown. If you really believed God himself was speaking to you, there would be no necessity to visit a psychologist. So already in the answer you're giving me, you're not answering my hypothetical. You're creating your own hypothetical where you are having an auditory hallucination. But that's not what I asked of you about.
I've answered your exact question, and then I posed it back to you. I would
No, you
definitely
didn't. You
see a
didn't.
psychiatrist if I believed
No,
genuinely God was
Josh.
telling me to murder people.
I think
Josh,
you're a
not think.
liar.
You believe in this hypothetical. You actually do believe it is God, not you think that you are
I've
hearing
already told
voices.
myself beforehand, if I ever believe that God is telling me to murder a bunch of people, I will seek psychiatric help. What would you
Why?
do? Have you not made that
Why would
commitment to
you?
yourself
Why
that if
would
you
you,
believe that God is
Josh?
telling you to murder people, you should probably not do it?
Josh, why do you believe in God?
Yes, I'm a theist.
Okay. And yet you're saying that if you were convinced that you knew God was telling you to do something, you would go see a psychiatrist because you might be delusional.
Should
just
the
do
prophet
anything.
Samuel?
That's not
Should the prophet?
telling me
I'm
to
sorry.
do anything that I
I'm
would
sorry,
go
I
to a
can't understand you.
psychiatrist.
Try again.
I didn't say that I would see a psychiatrist no matter what I thought God was telling me. I said, if you're hypothetical, and it was the case that God was telling me to kill
Why,
people,
Josh?
I would see a psychiatrist.
Why, Josh? Why would you disobey God and go see a psychiatrist?
I've established that beforehand, that if I ever believe that I should
No.
murder someone or do
Why are you
something that is contrary to what the
prioritizing?
Bible
Why are
says,
you
that I will
prioritizing?
seek
Why are you
help.
prioritizing? Why are you prioritizing your pre-established position over Almighty God's demand?
This is what the Bible says. It says not to murder. So that's what I've established. If I ever believed some crazy notion that I'm supposed to go murder,
So,
what would you do if you thought God was telling you to go murder people? Just out of curiosity, Matt.
Should the prophet Samuel have?
I don't believe in a God. Listen to the question, Josh. Dalton's getting ready to expose your hypocrisy.
Should the prophet Samuel have gone to see a psychologist when he heard a voice from the Lord saying to go and wipe out the Amalekites?
Nope, because he didn't just hear a voice. God actually spoke to him. Now, could you engage with me and tell me what you would do if you believed that God was telling you to murder somebody? Or are you refusing to answer any questions and you're only going to ask questions over and over that I answer over and over?
Hang on. Josh, shut the fuck up and listen. If I thought that a God was telling me to kill people, I would go seek professional help. But that's because I don't believe there is a God.
Well, no, but this hypothetical, you do believe it genuinely that God is telling
you
you to
don't
kill
get to
people.
make a
That's what you told
hypothetical
me.
where I believe there's a God. I lived that life. When I believed there was a God, unlike you, I would have obeyed God.
That's crazy. I don't know any other Christian who says that.
I know thousands of them. It's
I've never met a single one. I've heard lots of your conversations with people, and I've never heard a single one of them say that they would murder and genocide people if they thought God was telling them.
Josh, you're actually wrong, because they're actively doing it right now in support of the end times prophecies related to Israel. I also went to church with many of them who did that. And by the way,
Matt,
Abraham went to. I'm sorry, I don't know why you're speaking. If you can't tell by my tone right now, if you can't tell by my tone right now that I'm schooling your little ass and you need to be quiet, then I'll have to put you on mute, because Abraham obeyed God and went to kill his son when God gave him that instruction to do so. I think that story never happened. I think the story is absolutely preposterous, and I think that the only viable test that God could have been performing was to see if Abraham was as delusional as he apparently was, in order to chastise him for that. However, Abraham obeyed, and the traditional view of all this is for it to continue with obeying. You're saying, see, I don't believe there's a God, so if I thought I was getting messages from a God, I would go seek professional help. But if I believed there was a God, and I was absolutely convinced that God was telling me to do something, then I would feel an obligation to do it. To not feel that obligation would betray the fact that on some level, I don't actually believe in a God. That's where you're at.
Yeah, that's what you don't. Maybe you don't understand the hypothetical I proposed to you, Josh. In the hypothetical I proposed
Well,
to
you
you,
haven't answered the
you
hypothetical for yourself. Would you
well,
would you
you
kill
don't-
someone
I'm
if you
sorry,
thought
Josh,
God
but
was
you're a
telling you
fucking
to do
liar.
that?
I literally just answered it for you.
No, I'm asking
Yeah,
your colleague
so
here.
Josh,
He posed
Josh,
it idiotically. So, sir,
Josh,
would
I don't.
you
Well,
murder
Josh,
people if
what's
you
funny,
believed
Josh,
that God was
Josh,
telling you to?
Josh,
Okay,
I
Josh, I've
wouldn't. Now,
muted you so that Dalton
yeah.
can speak.
So, Josh,
This is
I
not
didn't get
for
to
real.
answer your hypothetical until you first answered my hypothetical. And in the hypothetical I proposed to you, you don't think you're hearing voices. In the hypothetical I proposed, you do genuinely believe that this is actually Yahweh, the God of Israel, is actually speaking to you. You don't believe that you have a mental breakdown in this hypothetical. In this hypothetical, you know for a fact that God is in fact speaking to you, and God has said, go and wipe out this people. Now
Let's
that you
expand
know
it.
that, yeah.
Would it be fair to expand it, Dalton, to say, Josh, you're standing in church and God appears clearly in front of you, and everybody else at church has this same experience. And God says to all of you at that church that he wants you to go out and slaughter Muslims. What are you going to do then?
Being good,
Yeah, it's
Matt. Why
You
don't
were
you
talking
answer the
that whole time,
hypothetical?
weren't you?
I've answered it multiple times already.
you
No,
haven't,
Josh.
Why
Josh.
can't you
No,
answer the
Josh, you
hypothetical
haven't.
that I've answered
Okay,
multiple times?
Josh, I really here. I'm gonna have to mute you because you're really stupid, Josh, and I'm sorry. I hate that was somehow done to your brain. That an otherwise reasonable person has decided to be stupid and dishonest in deference to an idea. We changed the hypothetical to make it more clear, and so we're going to need you to buckle in and do your best to focus. Put on your big boy panties and answer the question. If you were in church and you and everyone in your church experienced what you all were completely convinced was Almighty God appearing before you and instructing you all to go out and kill Muslims. The question is, what would you do? You are still muted. I'm going to unmute you. What would you do in that scenario? This is a different scenario because you've been dishonest. Please answer this scenario. I'll unmute you now.
And once you actually answer the scenario,
This exact scenario-
then I will answer your scenario.
And then you'll answer this exact scenario, okay?
I'm sorry, your phone broke up. Are you going to answer this or not?
This exact scenario.
I'm
and
sorry,
then you
your phone
answer
broke
this
up.
exact Scenario.
I'm sorry that you're technologically deficient. Answer the proposition. Answer the proposal. What would you do in that scenario?
I would seek another Christian's opinion. What would you do?
I literally just told you everybody there shared that
You
experience.
said everyone at church. That's not every Christian, you stupid shit.
Oh, hi, Josh. Welcome back to mute. You're not going to break my zen because you're dumb as fuck and dishonest. Why would you go? See, this is how Josh isn't serious. Josh isn't a thinker, and I don't think Josh is a Christian. I was fundamentally a better Christian than when I was a Christian and than Josh is now or could ever be. When Josh is like, oh, that's not every Christian. I didn't say it was every Christian, dumbass. I said, why would you go seek thoughts from someone who did not have that experience? You're sitting there. This is how ridiculous your dishonesty is, Josh. And by the way, when I'm done, I'm going to hang up on you. So, but you're going to sit there and listen, just in case I change my mind. You're sitting there in church, and a whole bunch of people share an experience where all of you are convinced that God has given you instruction. If you're the type of Christian that when God shows up and speaks to all of the people around you and they give you their affirmation, and you're stupid enough to say, I'm going to go ask some other Christian who wasn't there and didn't have that experience. I'm not going to trust God. You're not a Christian. You're not a believer. It's all performance, just like your calls. Your calls are just performance. You're not here to witness. You're not here to give the reason for the hope that's within you. You're here to say, oh, well, what would you do as an atheist? As an atheist, I'm not crippled by the same stupidity that you're crippled by. I don't believe that there's a God to do this, so I don't run into the conflict. See, we're pointing out a conflict. You claim that you believe there's a God. In fact, even when you had the best justification possible that God wants you to do something, you still wouldn't do it. You'd rely on, you'd do what the Bible says to not do, which is to rely on your own understanding. You would do what the Bible says not to do, which is go out and ask others to judge the scenario, to tell you what it is that God wants you to do. I mean, if you're a Christian, you're an absolutely shitty Christian. You don't understand the doctrine. You don't understand the Bible. You don't understand logical reasoning. You don't understand justification. You don't understand hypotheticals. You don't even know how to work a phone. But luckily, despite I'm in such a great mood, and you'll never break my zen, that I'm going to let Dalton figure out where to go with your rage-baiting, ignorant, lying, non-Christian ass.
Yeah, can you imagine, Matt, if you had the Israelites in the millions standing at the base of Mount Sinai, and they see the clouds, and they see the fire, and they hear the booming voice, "I am the Lord thy God. Don't do this, don't do that." And then Shmuley turns to his buddy and goes, "Maybe I need to get a second opinion."
Yeah. Let's go ask those Amalekites over there, see what they thought.
Yeah, like Josh, it's so telling that you are incapable of engaging with the hypothetical brought to your feet, and you have to create your own hypothetical to answer, and then demand that we answer your hypothetical. You don't get something for nothing, Josh.
I wonder if it'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Do you think this would be fun? Let's bring Josh back, even though I said I was going to hang up on him. Let's bring Josh back. And let's have Josh just straight up ask us his hypotheticals.
Yeah.
And we'll just answer them the way he refuses to.
It's going to be so easy.
Here we go. All right, Josh, what's your first hypothetical?
I'll just go with the exact same one that I just answered from you.
In that hypothetical, you're a believer, but in that hypothetical, I'm not. Are you asking me what I would do if I was a believer?
No, this is the hypothetical. Just like you're saying, in this hypothetical,
I'm sorry.
Everyone's saying that you get you could murder
I'm
someone.
I'm sorry. I'm literally asking you. Wow, you're in such a hurry.
It's your hypothetical.
I'm sorry. Would you shut up and listen for just a second? I'm asking. Holy crap, Josh. I'm sorry that your brain is fucking broken. I really am. This would go so much better. I'm asking you, do you want me to pretend that I'm a believer in church having that experience, or does your hypothetical have me as me, a non-believer, having that experience in church? That's what I'm trying to clarify. I'm sorry that clarification is just too difficult for you, but let's try it. I'm going to unmute you in a second. Should I do the scenario as me or as a believer?
It's as you. The hypothetical is as you, Matt, and you are in church and you are convinced that God is telling you and all the other believers to kill people.
I would disobey.
I would not be convinced that it was God.
If I knew for the fact that it was God, though, if I knew it was God, though, I would disobey. I wouldn't kill a group of people if a God told me to.
Okay, so my answer and your answers are all similar. We all agree we wouldn't.
No, they're not all similar because we don't believe in a God. We don't believe in a God. You do.
Yeah, in the scenario I proposed to you,
we all do.
No, I'm sorry.
Josh.
I'm sorry, dumbass. You don't get to make a hypothetical where you flip my belief to be as stupid as yours. I didn't make
the hypothetical. You guys did. You made.
I did. Let me. I'm sorry. I made a hypothetical where I took your actual belief and exposed it to find out what it leads to. You decided to flip my belief to your belief to expose nothing but yourself. So if in fact, so for example, when I was a God believer, if I had been in church and everybody in church had this experience, a shared experience, and God wanted me to kill people, I would have been very uncomfortable about it, but I would have been too afraid to not follow it. Because the God I believed in absolutely could demand something like that because he does it in the Bible. I would have no justification for saying that's not God, the way I think Abraham could and should. See, unlike you, I don't have a preschooler's understanding of the Bible. I have kind of a third grader's understanding of the Bible. I would have probably gone for like sixth grade once upon a time, but then I met guys who really, really know this stuff, unlike you.
Josh, is
go
it
ahead.
good or bad to obey God?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Good.
All right. So if you knew God was giving you a command, and it's not your own brain, it is actually God. God himself is actually giving you a command. Do you obey the command?
I would make sure with other people whether that was an actual
you know
command
it's
of
God. You've already done all that. You've already done all this. You know it is
And
in fact
everyone in the
God.
whole world tells me that it was indeed God telling me to do this.
Oh, listen to Josh being the worst liar ever. Everybody in the whole world, let me set up an impossible scenario so that I can dodge answering it while complaining that you're dodge answering it. You're never going to not look stupid, Josh. No matter how many, I'm always going to be better at this than you.
Every single person you ask says yes.
I have answered it. I answered it both ways, actually, you liar.
Your own hypothetical because you're so pathetic.
I answered it twice. I answered it under both circumstances, you liar.
You didn't. You said it was a flip hypothetical when it's not. It's the exact same hypothetical.
I'm sorry. You only here. Let me mute you, you little bitch. I pointed out that you flipped it, but I answered it both ways. If in fact I was a God believer and I believed it was God, I told you exactly that I would be too afraid to disobey. However, I also, in line with what Dalton was saying, don't think that even if I believed it was God, I'm not convinced that it's a good thing to do what God says. And so under that, I would disobey. Now I've answered it 4 times. What next, Josh?
Yeah, Josh, every person you interact with, every person you
talk about how your beliefs are going to wildly change over time.
Every person, Josh, every person you interact with confirms that fact this was God. You have gone through every single possible route to in fact confirm that this is God speaking to you. Now that you know for a fact that this is God speaking to you, do you obey God?
So you're telling me that like every Christian in the world is saying that God spoke to Josh and told him to genocide people?
Yes.
That's your hypothetical?
Yes, Josh, we'll play your dumb game.
I would do the same thing as you.
You would disobey God.
I would ask Matt what to do, and then I would copy him.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks. So, Josh, why do you do this? Because you're not serious.
Well,
so
Matt,
why do you do this?
You would say, yeah, Josh, God did talk to you. You should kill all these people.
No, I'm sorry, Josh. You don't get to spend that. What I'm asking you is, since you're not serious, why are you calling?
You just said everyone in the world tells me that God said this.
No, every
to me.
Christian.
That includes you,
every
Matt.
Christian. Every
no,
Christian,
it doesn't.
Matt.
I'm not a Christian. I'm sorry. You can't pay attention to hypotheticals.
Every agrees we must genocide a group of people.
No,
Josh,
no, I'm sorry, Josh. We said every Christian, not every person.
You're not very bright, are you, Josh?
Matt, then this hypothetical for you.
No, you don't get to talk to me anymore, Josh. You don't get to talk to me anymore. I'd let you talk to Dalton, but I'm honestly completely bored with your bullshit trolling. I really wanted you to just explain why you do this.
I think we've squeezed all the dishonesty out of him we could possibly get.
It's funny because I'm going to leave him on hold because I like making sure that he has to listen just in case. Some sincere theists would have a conversation about, hey, what's your justification for not murdering people? Problem is, I've already actually addressed that. But Josh called in to say we need our God or our beliefs will change wildly over time. The problem is, if your beliefs are wrong, you should want them to change. And if they're not wrong, they won't change wildly over time. If they are backed by reason and evidence, there's no reason to change them dramatically. As a matter of fact, there are certain things that while we will continue to refine our knowledge, it's not like we're going to discover that the earth is actually flat. That ship has sailed. It's not like we're going to find that genocide is a good thing for the people that you're genociding. We've moved beyond that. And so while there may be mathematical puzzles that we haven't solved, and possible paradoxes and philosophical problems that we don't necessarily have a solution to, that doesn't mean that we need to sit around waiting and arguing about whether or not 1 + 1 = 2 requires a God, or whether or not, if somebody believes in God, they should obey God. The fact is, here's a logical syllogism for Josh. Premise 1, it's good to obey God. Premise 2, God told you to kill someone. Conclusion, it is good for you to kill someone. That is the simplest syllogism to derive from that. But Josh doesn't care about syllogisms. Josh doesn't care about logic. Josh only cares about dancing around and avoiding the actual implications of his view. And he thinks he's clever. Well, mange tout, you're not. All right.
Beautifully done.
Thank you. Gold star. Give you an A. You bottom feeder. All right. William is calling from Texas. William's a theist. Pronouns are he, him, wants to debate on the Christian God being awful. Hey, William, how are you?
Hey, pretty good. So when I saw the topic, I immediately thought of Marcion of Sinope, early 2nd century Christian influencer who believed that the God of the New Testament, Jesus, was so different than the awful God of the Old Testament and the genocidal, infanticidal, whatever God, that he proposed 2 different gods. So he actually thought the New Testament God was good as opposed to the Old Testament God was evil. And he actually came up with our first canon, which is Luke and 10 letters of Paul. So wouldn't that be kind of a good argument for the Jesus being, not awful?
I would actually disagree with this position. I think the God of the New Testament is infinitely worse than the God of the Old Testament, because at least in the Old Testament, when God genocided you, everyone goes to the same place. You all go to Sheol, or you all just cease to exist, depending on which biblical author you're looking to. But in the New Testament, if you're evil, or if you're not really evil, if you just don't believe in the God and you get killed, then God will eternally have you consciously burned forever for finite crimes, which I think is infinitely worse and infinitely more evil than anything God did in the Old Testament. So he's worse in the New Testament.
But when you look at things like, one of the things I like to go to establish the historicity of Jesus and his character is the Syrophoenician woman, where she says, "Hey, Jesus, heal my daughter." And he says, "Why should I take the children's pearls and give this to the dogs?" So, whoa, that makes him look a little misogynistic and a little xenophobic, and kind of makes him look like a jerk. But what's cool about Jesus is he goes and says, she says, "Well, even the dogs pick up the crumbs." So, he relents and he changes his mind and he goes, "You got a point." And he
Why would you have to
heals her.
change God's mind?
Yeah, it's weird. If God isn't truly immutable, then he cannot have his mind changed.
If God can only do good, how could God have been wrong and needed his mind changed?
Well, good point. Now, you're assuming Jesus is God, right? I mean, instead of a created
No, I'm not.
being like the...
I'm not
Okay.
convinced he necessarily existed, but I'm fine with the notion that he did exist. I don't think he fulfilled prophecy. I don't think he was divine. I don't think anyone or anything is divine. But for example, are you in agreement with Jesus that the only justification for divorce is infidelity?
No, of course not.
So you disagree with Jesus? I thought you were a Christian. I'm
Sure.
sorry. What's your religion?
Yeah. Oh, just, yes, yeah.
What's that?
just see, it's not a Christian, was a Christian, but
Okay.
you know
So
the
why would you, as a non-Christian, call in to debate on behalf of the Christian God not being awful if the first couple of questions we ask you, you disagree with him? Don't you think it would be awful to tell people that they can only get divorced in the case of infidelity?
well, of course, but
Well,
what
then you
I'm
think the
trying to
Christian God
do
is awful. So why are you calling in when you agree with us that the Christian God is awful?
well, the challenge is to tease out what actually Jesus said. You're familiar with the Jesus seminar.
Why?
That
Why?
tries to tease out
No, no, no.
what he said. And
William, if Jesus isn't God, why the fuck should I care what he said?
Yeah, it was just a random Jewish guy from the first century who had maybe good things to say, but also mostly bad shit to
Yeah.
say.
Some good stuff, some bad stuff, not important, not God. Why does anybody care what he says?
because his character, like when he said, hey, why can I not heal people on the Sabbath? Why isn't that more important than, you know, your
Do you think he
laws
actually
and your
healed people?
traditions? So, huh?
Do you think he actually healed people?
Well, that's the question, though, isn't it? If
No,
he
no, no.
did, and he
Okay.
broke Sabbath,
When I ask you the question and you say that's the question, so you're I'm gonna slip back because Dalton's going to be able to assess Jesus' character better than I am, but you could pick things that Jesus did and all of us would say, yep, that was a good thing. And you could pick things that Jesus did and all of us, I presume, would say, yep, that was a bad thing. And so here's the question, William, was Jesus a better human being than me?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one because he did do things which were kind of dirty, okay? But, you know, like when he's with the Spice Girls, you know, Mary and Martha, he sits there and listens and says, look, there, you've done the right thing. You're listening to me. And he seems to be kind of a cool guy, right?
What? No, that doesn't sound
And I
cool.
think,
that doesn't sound cool at all. Hey, listen, if we take Jesus' words for what he says in the New Testament, one thing we know about Jesus then is that he was very in favor of the law of Moses, believed that it was good, holy, that we ought to follow it. And the law of Moses has some utterly despicable tenets in it, such as putting virgins to death because they don't bleed on their wedding night, or owning slaves as property. You know, Jesus was in fact in favor of the law of Moses, as he says in the Gospels, then that would make Jesus a not great fella.
well, that's actually an excellent point. And obviously in Matthew, it says, not a jot or tittle of the law. He believed in the law of Moses. But he broke the law of Moses, obviously, by breaking Sabbath and
Well,
so
not
forth, and
really.
healing.
Not really. Within Judaism, it is permitted to heal people, even giving medicine on the Sabbath. It's a principle called pikuach nefesh, the preservation of life. Any Jewish scholar, for example, if you get a copy of the book of the Jewish Annotated New Testament, they will alert you that this is perfectly in line within Judaism. You're allowed to break the Sabbath in order to perpetuate life. So Jesus
What
was in
about
favor of Jewish law.
what about instructing people to steal a donkey?
That
Well, is that historical? I mean, you know, obviously the
It doesn't.
writer was trying to fulfill that
William,
Zechariah prophecy.
William, you don't get to do is that historical? You can say that for literally everything. I don't know why you pulled that one out for this. I don't think this story about stealing a donkey happened any more than I think he was crucified and resurrected or walked on water or any of those things. But Dalton was listing the problems. And my question still is, was Jesus better than me? And the fact that you think this is a difficult question already seems to reinforce the idea that nobody should give a crap at all what he thought. Plus,
yeah,
even if you gave a crap what he thought, you don't know what he thought because you don't have anything that he's ever said.
Well, the challenge
we can only
is
go by what
because
we can only
the
go by what
challenge
the
is
gospel
like,
said. Jesus would have been in favor of like women being property. Matt, are you in favor of women being property?
No,
Jesus would have been in favor of slavery. Matt, what's your position on that?
I'm opposed to slavery.
Okay, based on this information, who's morally more upright, do you think? Jesus or Matt?
Me all fucking day. Oh, I'm sorry. You were asking William.
Now, but you got to look at his culture. I mean, look at the woman who was it? The woman, Samaritan woman, where he, you know, forgave her, and you know, she just was
I'm
telling
sorry.
everybody about him, and he
We-
had close disciples. Mary of
William.
Magdalene, he had close women. He elevated
William.
women, didn't he?
William, I don't know. We just went through slavery and women as property, and my position is different from Jesus's. And you said you have to look at his culture. Does something about culture change whether women should be property?
I'm just saying, for Jesus to escape his culture, it would be very difficult. But he was,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
he
So
did.
you're saying that because Jesus was just a person living in a time, it was very difficult for him to stand up against injustice like that.
Also,
look at the cleansing of
if
the
Jesus-
temple. If that's historical, that shows that Jesus was, you know, trying
No,
to.
I don't know
clean
why
up
I can't
things.
get an answer to my question. I guess I'd stop.
Well,
what is?
are
Wait,
you
why
better?
are we talking about?
Could
Why?
be.
Why are we?
That wasn't the question I just asked. We already settled that I'm better.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Why
ahead.
are we talking about Jesus though? If we're talking about, because you don't think Jesus is God, we're talking about
Exactly.
Yahweh, right? The Christian God, whether or not he's awful. Why are we talking about Jesus?
Can you
No, I'm
name
just
any
saying that-
position? Can you name any position, William, that Jesus held that you are confident Jesus held?
Well, I think the cleansing of the temple, that the hypocrisy of the money changers was a problem.
Why are
for
you
him.
confident that Jesus held that position?
Well, I'm not confident on anything because the writers had a theological axe to grind. So you got to
Well,
everything
then I
they
asked
say,
you-
you got to be.
I
skeptical.
asked you, can you give me any position that you are confident Jesus held?
Well, that he if you believe the Gospels, he healed people and he believed
That's not
in
what
health.
I asked.
Yeah, he believed in well-being.
I
and
don't
health.
believe the Gospels. I asked you, I didn't say, wow, wait, I don't know why this is so difficult, William. Yes, if you believe the Gospels, I can list countless positions that I'm confident Jesus held if we begin with the assumption that the Gospels are a reliable record of his words and deeds. However, we don't get to make that assumption, which was my entire fucking point. So when I asked you if you could come up with any position that you have confidence Jesus held, you subconsciously seem to realize that the answer is rightly no, but because you're afraid to say no, you go with, oh, well, if you believe the Gospels. Okay, William, should we believe the Gospels are an accurate record of what Jesus said and did?
Well, the great demythologizers of, the great Rudolf Bultmann and the Germans believed, okay, just throw out all the miracles, okay? So let's just get to the bare bones. And you yourself said we can believe, I think in a debate, didn't you say we can believe the mundane things that Jesus did?
I'm sorry, what question do you think I asked you?
These are the tough questions. Bear with me. And they're
It's
good
literally above my head. Can you see the screen?
Wait a minute. You understand my frustration because we do have to tease out.
No,
what
I
is
don't understand your
historical.
frustration. I'm hoping that you start understanding mine because I'm sick to death of asking questions that people don't fucking answer.
Well, you ask very difficult questions because
That's
you're
not
very
my problem.
informed.
You called into the show. I'm sorry if you didn't bring your A game or have an A game to bring, but I shouldn't have to be punished, and the audience shouldn't have to be punished just because you're not
Okay.
ready for difficult questions.
Did we believe the Gospels are an accurate record somewhat. I
Why?
think we can, because the mundane things like the Spice Girls, Mary and Martha, like in Mark 6, where he goes and in his own hometown, he couldn't heal anybody. He couldn't do any miracles. Well, why would you say that? That just, meets the criteria of embarrassment, right?
What is your
Doesn't that
criteria
go-
for determining which gospel claim is true?
Oh, with everybody else, all the scholars, the criteria of embarrassment. Jesus baptized by John. It's embarrassing. He should be baptizing John. Multiple attestation. If you have Q and Matthew sets forth M and Luke sets forth L, and the synoptics and the John. If you have those independent sources, not to mention Thomas and Hebrews and the letters of Paul, then we have really good attestation that we could be dealing with a historical figure here.
It's just as likely that they're made up. There are embarrassing things in the stories of ancient gods that make for example, fratricide, killing one's own brother, really, really looked down on by the Romans. Yet, it's a key feature of the story of Romulus and Remus. Romulus certainly didn't even exist. You can have embarrassing parts and factors about mythology and them not being true. This doesn't tell us whether or not the things Jesus said and did in the Gospels are in fact true.
Well, you've got a great point, and it does have its critics, the criteria of embarrassment. But we're dealing with historiography. We're not dealing with science like Jesus walking on the water, calming the storm. I mean, those are big claims. So we can't say, hey, Jesus, you walk across that pond one more time, and so I can get that different video angle. We have to just look at the text, and just like the great demythologizers did, and determine,
even when we look,
William,
even when we look at some of the mundane things that Jesus does or says, some of them strain credulity. John 10, Jesus says to the Pharisees, quote, "Is it not written in your law, I said you are gods?" One, referring to the law of Moses as your law. A Jewish person talking to another Jewish person doesn't talk like that. And then two, quoting the Psalms when you say it's the law of Moses, this doesn't sound like something Jesus would have said. And there's lots of examples like this in the Gospels where it leads us to think that perhaps this isn't really what the historical Jesus would have said.
Well, no kidding. You've read the the 5 Gospels by the Jesus seminars. All of John is black. They have red. He said it. Black. He definitely didn't say gray. He might have said it. But when you look at the earliest and unvarnished Gospel of Mark, you might see a real character. Well, he was good enough for Marcion. If he's good enough for Marcion and he believes he's good, shouldn't it be good enough for you guys?
Does this tell us anything about Jesus' moral character?
It doesn't tell me anything at all about whether Jesus existed, whether you have any accurate record of what he said, whether or not we should believe it. And since you're somebody who doesn't even believe he's divine, why are we wasting time talking about the opinion of someone who you can't even determine if they were better than me? Did you spend anywhere near as much time poring over my words?
Yeah, there's just instances where Jesus forgiving Peter, who that might be legendary.
Wow.
Dalton, of Tiberius,
I am done, and you can steer, because I am absolutely exhausted from never having my fucking question answered. Just going on to whatever the next random deflection is to tell me more about Jesus when I'm asking why the fuck we should care at all about Jesus.
I'm over it. I think it is interesting that the last thing that William brought up was Jesus forgiving Peter after the resurrection, which clearly didn't happen.
Well, if you believe in the post-resurrection appearances, and I know those are up for grabs, but
you don't, do you?
We weren't.
Well, if you believe this, anything, If you believe this, I'll pull monkeys out of my butt. Unfucking believable.
I'm just saying that if
You're just
that
blabbing.
is true-
You're just absolutely spouting useless, pointless things.
Next time you want to call up and ask about the Christian God being awful, maybe we should spend time talking about the Christian God and not Jesus.
Matter of fact, William, the only thing I care to have a talk to you about right now is what God you believe in and should we believe it. You want to have that talk?
I believe a God that intervenes in history, and obviously the origin of life, creation of the universe, the Hayward explosion. You know, all those are evidences that God might have intervened in his
Might have or
creation.
did?
Oh, well, we don't know. It could have. Or
I'm sorry.
origin of life,
I'm sorry.
You know.
William, you believe he did, though, right?
Yeah, that's just me. I mean, I'm not an expert on origin
I
of
know
life
it's.
or the.
Did you think Did you think I was delusional enough to think I was talking to several other people when I asked you that question?
No, you're not delusional at
So,
all.
well, thank you. I don't know how you determine that, but I'll go ahead and take it. William, do you care if your beliefs are rationally justified?
Of course, yeah. I wouldn't spend so
Okay.
much time on.
Please pause, calm down, because you say, of course, like anybody would say yes. And trust me, as the guy who's done this for decades, they don't. Some people prefer comforting beliefs, whether they're true or not. So, whether they're rational or not. So, if you're an advocate of rational beliefs, I'm assuming you have a rational, you think your belief in a God is rational, correct?
Yeah,
Do you have evidence to support this rational belief?
of course. That
What is
the
the
creation of-
evidence? What is the evidence that you believe in the God that actually created life?
well, the improbabilities of the universe. First of all, it has to, have carbon, which is just a big minor miracle there because, as Fred Hoyle
Yeah.
said, it looks like a
William,
super intellect is
William?
monkeying with physics.
William, I asked if you had evidence. I didn't ask if you could argue that it was unlikely for it to happen without a God. How did you determine that it's more likely to happen, that it is more likely the actual result of a God? Because, for example, I can shuffle up a deck of cards right in front of you and I can deal you out 13 spades, and you won't know whether or not I cheated. It would be improbable for you to get that hand, but not impossible for you to get that hand. And so if you got those cards, you would say, I think it's highly improbable that you dealt these fairly. I think it's likely you cheated. And that's because we can do the calculations, but you might be wrong. What makes you think it's likely that a God could possibly be the cause of life? I don't know that a God is even possible.
Like the creation of proteins, let's say 150 amino
Jesus
acid
Christ.
polymer. The chances,
I'm sorry,
William.
I'm sorry, William, but I asked why you get to consider God a possible explanation. There is no unlikeliness that makes a God likely. So why do you get to consider God a possible explanation?
Well, because, like I said, it's the chances, according to the Discovery Institute, are 10 to the 77.
Christ.
I mean, that's basically saying it's
Jesus Christ, William, how many
impossible,
times do I have to explain the same thing? If something is incredibly unlikely, how do you determine that a God is more likely?
Because the alternative is random chance without any super intellect.
How do you determine that a God is more likely?
It's just feeling, I guess.
It's
I'm
just a feeling. I'm
subjective
sorry,
human being,
William.
yeah.
I thought you were someone who wanted rational beliefs supported by evidence, but it turns out you want beliefs supported by your feelings and your ignorance about the difference between possibility and probability.
Well, I don't
Discovery says, are
have,
you a
you know,
an Earth creationist?
You don't have
Go ahead.
what?
What impacts the thing about whether God exists? Genetics, paleontology, geology.
No, it
It can't
doesn't.
be in
None of those
biology.
things, none of those things have anything to do with whether or not God exists. If a God exists, it could potentially impact those, but none of those can confirm the existence of a God. None of them can confirm the possibility of a God. I'm sorry, but you don't have evidence and you don't seem to care.
Well, it's like God's thing. The fingerprint of God is what like reasons to believe that would say that ministry was
No, it's something you're looking at and you're calling it the fingerprint of God. Prove that it's the fingerprint of God.
I can't do that. I mean, I'm not an expert in all these fields, so
You're not an
you'd have
expert
to be
in
an expert
anything,
all
but
those
if you
fields
can't
to say,
do it, you shouldn't believe it.
well, I was an atheist for years, so
Okay.
even though Aaron Ra believes I was not a real atheist.
I don't.
I
Oh
wasn't a
my
real
God,
Christian.
William, are you able to stay on topic at all? Is Aaron Ra here? Do I give a fuck what Aaron Ra thinks about whether you were a real atheist? I don't care if you were a real atheist. All I care about is, do you have good reason to not be an atheist? And the answer appears to be no.
Well, it's a cumulative case when you see that genetics and cosmology.
No, I'm sorry. You're using every irrational. Were you ever a skeptic, William?
Well, I was the atheist part of the Atheist Christian Book Club for 6 years, so I guess I was.
I'm sorry.
In,
what question do you think I just asked you?
Was I ever an atheist? Was that the question?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Atheist and skeptic are not necessarily the same thing. You can be an atheist and believe in all kinds of nutty shit.
Was I ever a skeptic? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Well, I was skeptical enough to take the atheist position.
The answer is no.
And then you were...
The answer is no. The answer is no.
Of course,
the way you answered the question.
One of the most skeptical people you'll ever meet.
The way you answered the question already gives me the answer is no.
Do you hang around Christians? I know you do. Do you realize how unskeptical
Wait,
Christians
did you just
are?
ask me if I do something? Did you just ask me, William, did you just ask me if I do something and then say, I know you do?
Well, obviously you deal with Christians, correct?
You sound just like them.
Christians,
you sound just like them. You sound no different than the Christians that call in.
Believe me, you can ask Christians that I've dealt with in seminaries.
I don't want to believe you, William. I don't care to believe you. It doesn't matter. Your personal anecdotes are no more evidence for anything than your confusion in other topics is. What did you want to ask me?
I feel that there's evidence that God intervenes in history. Okay, and it's
okay. Let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. Does the fact that someone feels there's evidence that God intervenes in history mean there's actually evidence that God intervenes in history?
Well, of course, the Cambrian explosion, where you have the major fire.
No. Wow. You just said, of course. You just said, of course, when the answer is, of course not.
It's maybe. Okay, would that be better? That maybe.
No, it's not a maybe.
God got these files.
It's not a maybe. William, does the fact that somebody feels there's evidence that points to God, does that mean there's actually evidence that points to God? The answer is no. What you feel has no impact on what is actual.
Of course, but what I'm saying is it's
no, I'm sorry, William. William, we're done. I can't take any more of your bullshit saying, of course, after you've just been disproved for the 75,000th time. I say something and you say, of course, when you should have said, of course not. And then when I correct it, then you say, of course, as if, of course not was wrong. You are not honest. I don't care to speak to you.
Uh-huh. Anyway, do you want to hear a cool story about the Marcion?
No, because you are someone with book report co-host syndrome. You're a non-Christian who wants to talk about all the little teeny things that you've educated yourself on, which are completely irrelevant and do nothing to support anything true. You are stuck at home alone, desperate for somebody to pay attention to the fact that you read a book report about a book about Marcion, or you read something about church history, or you know something subtle that some dipshit in the pew that you want to feel superior to doesn't know. Meanwhile, your views are just as irrational, just as vapid and without evidential support, and in many cases, worse, because you have nothing to base it on, which is why you're spending your time digging through the Bible and Christian history, a religion that you do not believe. It's embarrassing.
Well, when the church father met, or one of the people in Rome, bishops met Marcion, they said, I've just met the firstborn of Satan. And they gave him his money back. He donated money to the church. So
He decided to just
go
right on ahead and trail through his.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's a good story, guys.
William, I'd recommend the Secular Therapy
Marcion
Project, and you might want to reach out to see if there's some medication you get, since I just absolutely called you out on your Marcion thing, and you went right on as if nobody had said anything. I hope you find a friend who wants to listen to you, but I'm not that guy.
Okay, that's cool.
Don't you love it when non-Christian theists call in to talk about the Christian God? Not.
I mean, to be fair, we only have atheist callers on hold right now. There are no theists. And I think it's because, well, it's twofold. I think most of them know that they have nothing to offer. And they're happy to let, in this case, I mean, it's not even Christianity that's being embarrassed. It's actually, William's actually providing support for Christianity, because William is so absolutely befuddled at reality and justification, evidential justification for gods and what we should believe and what's important. And let me find a guru and let me tell you this story I just learned because I learned something cool. That what he does is he allows Christians to say, look, I just watched a caller call in who's absolutely obsessed with Christianity and exploring the Bible and exploring what Jesus says and studying the history. He doesn't believe it. And yet that's the impact of our Lord and Savior. He doesn't even have a Lord and Savior. He just has some, vague creator God. And it's because God has given him over to a reprobate mind and Satan has deceived him. But yet somehow the path of our righteous Savior still lays before his eyes, so that he has to focus on it, because the path that leads to destruction is wide, but the path that leads to eternal life is narrow. And he's not able to see that. Oh my God, why do I feel like I need to shower every time I do one of these shows where dipshits who do not understand that even the most basic thing about religion are obsessed with it and desperate. William, you'll never be a co-host on the show, ever. Until I'm dead, you will not be a co-host on the network. So stop auditioning. You have failed more than once. All right. We got some atheists we can talk to. Kevin has been on hold for a long time. Kevin's calling from Texas. Pronouns are he, him. Had a conversation with James Tour. Told him there were contradictions.
Howdy,
hey,
Kevin.
Matt, you hear me? I'm a big fan of yours. I've been listening to you for years. So thanks for taking my call.
Okay. I apologize in advance because you might not like how this goes.
Okay.
Go for it. What's going on?
All right. Anyways, so, I'm interested in abiogenesis, so I watch a lot of it. James Tour videos because he comes up on my list all the time. And if you know anything about James Tour videos, you know that at least once, if not 2 or 3 times in his videos, he invites you to send him an email and, so that he can explain to you why he believes in the physical resurrection of Jesus Christ. You're familiar with this, I assume. I assume you've watched some of his videos.
I couldn't even remember who he was when you called in, but I refreshed myself.
The only James Tour video I've
Okay.
ever watched is his debate with Professor Dave.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was a good one. Anyways, he, Gutsick Gibbon, him and Gutsick Gibbon have some ongoing back and forth videos about each other. Anyway, so he invites you to, if you don't believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus Christ, send me an email and we'll get together on Zoom. And so I did that after listening to that about 100,000 times. I finally, in a moment of strength or a moment of weakness, said I should do it. I should write to James Tour and listen to his spiel. So I did. We got the call set up. I had a particular pet argument that I'm kind of practicing my street epistemology, counter-apologetics, and I don't have the kind of experience you do with this, so I'm trying to kind of practice, and so I thought maybe you could...
I don't have time for Notice Me Senpai. Get to the point.
All right. The argument that I used was that I feel like there's a contradiction in the resurrection of Jesus. Paul in 1 Corinthians 15 describes it as more of a spiritual, and the Gospels describe it as more of a physical, and I feel like Christians try to have it both this way. And so that was the argument that I presented.
Dalton, you're up.
Yeah, I actually would agree. Paul's idea about the resurrection is not necessarily that when Jesus was resurrected, he was resurrected with a physical body. He makes it very clear that while Adam was a physical man, Christ had become a life-giving spirit, and every single quote-unquote appearance of Jesus in Paul's 1 Corinthians 15 work, he says Jesus was buried. He doesn't say where he was buried. Says he was raised, never describes the resurrected body as being flesh and blood, but only being spirit. And that the Gospels, which came about decades later, definitely do picture Jesus as being more flesh and blood, as definitely a development in the religion.
Yeah. So the particular thing that I was curious about that I wanted to really hit James with was, Paul describes it as an imperishable body. And that's something I've given a lot of thought to, like imperishable, like how would that work? If it's a physical body and being resurrected back into, molecules, aren't they subject to the second law of thermodynamics and entropy? And so how could it be imperishable? And that's what I was trying to get out of James Tour. So I never really got a satisfying answer out of it. Yeah, go ahead.
I would suggest if you want more information on this specific topic, Dr. Richard Carrier, even though he's a mythicist, he does talk about the resurrection of Jesus as being spiritual, not physical, even from a non-mythicist perspective. So you can, if you want more material and just to go read up more on, Dr. Carrier has work on this topic specifically.
Yeah, I know Dr. Carrier. I've listened to a lot of his videos as well. So anyways, if you want to hear just the end of it, I could not get Dr. Tour to admit that this was a contradiction, that he said that he thought the two, the Gospels and Paul complemented each other perfectly, and that, the Gospels describe it as kind of a hybrid physical, non-physical experience, and that he felt like Paul was describing the same kind of hybrid experience. So I could not get him to admit or concede that it was a contradiction. So that's where it was. That's what I'm trying to practice, is this line of argumentation.
Yeah. God would sooner pop into existence than James to admit that he was wrong.
The overwhelming majority of Christians, scholarly or otherwise, are unlikely to agree with that assessment.
Yeah. unlikely to agree with Dr. Tour's assessment that the two
No.
parts of the Bible.
Unlikely to agree with what you and Dalton agreed to. I'm maybe I'm crazy, but this is the sort of thing that this is the sort of conclusion that people reach, both largely with origins in the mythicist community, but you don't have to be a mythicist to buy this. This take on Paul and how he described things, and to what extent Jesus was or wasn't real or physical, or the resurrection was real or physical. These things have been debated and discussed forever, and this is, well, not forever, but for a long time. And the view that you've hit on, which Dalton agrees with, which, by the way, I'm still not sure exactly where I come down on what the intent of the author is. I think it's problematic to start talking about what the intent is, but why would it be surprising that James Tour would take an unorthodox view that also seems to pretty much destroy Christianity and still be a Christian?
Right. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do with this particular pet argument of mine, is to, try to refine this down to where I can get somebody into a hard contradiction on this, that, Jesus is resurrected back into us.
When you're debating
Dalton can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, if you accept that view, Christianity crumbles. If you accept that there's this conflict with the views of the resurrection, Christianity crumbles. And yet there's a whole...
Right, that's why I'm trying to use it. Yeah, I agree. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dalton.
I'll say, when you're debating a theist like James Tour, never expect to convince them. I don't have one-on-one conversations with theists like this. I always do it in front of an audience, because at the end of the day, rarely ever will you convince the theist you're debating with. It's mostly for the benefit of the audience, who might have their minds changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we can present much stronger contradictions, much stronger problems that I would argue virtually no apologist has an answer to. Like, get into prophecies that were or weren't prophecies and were or weren't fulfilled. That's at least muddier, but you can get there. But talk about whether or not, how would you demonstrate that Jesus is divine? How would you demonstrate that God is good? How do you resolve slavery? How do you resolve cancer in infants? I mean, I'm not even a huge fan of the problem of evil, but I despise making problem of evil arguments, but I find the problem of evil to be vastly more compelling to the average pew sitter than whether or not Paul was writing about a spiritual realm resurrection. I mean, I just want to go with what's going to be most effective, and picking up obscure arguments that require nuanced interpretations and lots of study. I don't know where that's going to get you, when we can't even convince people that slavery is wrong and women are equal and that the Bible's homophobic. The queer churches out there in San Francisco are like, oh, no, those passages are those are suggestions, or they're about, pederasty or whatever else. And so, okay, maybe you're right. I don't know enough Hebrew. I don't know enough about ancient Jews to know that this isn't what they meant, but I do know what it says, how it's been used, and that at a minimum, they don't seem to have any sort of justification for how to square their personal view about pick your topic with what the Bible's view is. I don't know where a spiritual resurrection gets us in those waters. Especially when I can't get people to recognize that A and not A is an exhaustive view.
Yeah, I mean, this topic has its place in resurrection debates. Seldomly, there are far better routes for talking about contradictions in the Bible, as Matt has already said.
I'm with you. I mean, there's a hundred reasons why I'm not a Christian, and this is one of them. I picked this debate because that's the invitation that Dr. Tour puts out in his videos. If you do not believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus, send me an email and we'll get together and I'll explain to you why I embrace the resurrection of Jesus. So the particular line of vector of debate or argument that I used was specifically crafted because that was his invitation. But I get you. You know, there probably are better lines, but that was because that was his invitation. You know, if you don't believe in the physical resurrection, we'll get together. And so that was why. So then I just closed out the call and said, well, that's why I don't believe it. I only had a few minutes. You know, he witnessed to me for 55 minutes, and I only had less than 10 minutes to kind of come back at him on this. So.
Okie dokie.
Sorry, are you guys?
All right.
You guys still
Thanks,
there?
Kevin.
So, thanks for listening.
Okay, we'll check you later. Appreciate it. I need to bring in Patrick to talk about NanoCon because I mentioned at the top of the show that I was going to be doing a magic show, and I got to tell you, I'm more than a little nervous. We're running up on. I've got like 2 weeks to get this whole thing put together. I'm still digging out audio controls and there was a lot of stuff that was used in the show that got put into storage, and life's been busy. But Patrick, thanks for showing up. Tell everybody about NanoCon, where to go to find out more, where to get tickets, when it's going to happen, what they should expect to see, and why they suck if they don't show up.
Yeah, hi. So NanoCon is a conference for atheist folks that, and really anybody who's just identifies as non-religious, not really sure, hey, come on out. And it's in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's in 2 weeks, the weekend of July 31st. The main day is August 1st, you know, that Saturday. And if you've never been before, but you kind of just want to like see what it's all about, come check it out. You can get a ticket just for the day of Saturday, or come hang out all weekend. And probably the highlight for most people is going to be your show, Matt. Saturday evening, Matt is going to be doing a magic and mentalism show. I'll let you talk about that. But yeah, the website is www.nanocon.rocks. NANOCON.rocks. And I'll like send in a super chat with a link or something. But yeah, thanks, Matt.
Yep. I appreciate that. NanoCon rocks. There's a link in chat right now. Thank you, Calasia. I'm coming down and I'm driving, and I don't think Arden's going to get to come with me at all. Okay. Right, honey?
Sorry, well, I'm multitasking. What's going on?
I'm saying I don't think you're going to get to go to NanoCon at all, right?
Correct. Oh, I don't know if the audience can hear me. I don't think I'm.
They can. Well, I can hear you. So we'll just stop. So I'm going to come down solo. Arden's not going to be going with me, and that means that I don't have an on-stage assistant or anybody to help set up. So I will be reaching out to some people once I actually get there, and I'm doing mine Saturday night, right?
Yes, absolutely. Saturday night, 8:30 after the dinner. It's going to be awesome.
Cool, because I'm going to need all of Saturday to. Oh, by the way, we'll have to talk about setup, but we'll get all that. Patrick, I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna get some more callers in here. Thank you so much for calling in and doing this, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
Awesome, man. Take care. Thanks again for taking the call. Bye-bye.
You bet. Yeah, this is going to be a hard one. I did the last big magic show I did was at American Atheist Convention. Let's see. What, 4 years ago, 6 months after having open heart surgery. But there I had some help. This time it's going to mostly be me. So I see you, Atheist Mechanic. I may actually put you to work, but I'm sure there will also be a NanoCon volunteers. But I've started, like right now, the living room is now filling up with props. And I mean, I have some decent size. Like I'm worried I'm going to fit it all in the truck. So Arden couldn't come with me anyway, because there's not going to be room for anybody but me and the stuff. But all right. I'm going to screw up at least one trick, and I know that for a fact because I like to screw one up on purpose. But this is going to be a little strange, and I'm not sure our answers are going to be on the same page. But Franklin's calling from Virginia. Franklin's 28. He's a theist. Pronouns are he, him, and says that God is the necessary presupposition for knowing something is true. Hey, Franklin, how are you?
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Isn't the
I'm
script
confused.
usually precondition?
Well, so I would say more so that I believe God is like a fundamental value.
Okay, but the question that Dalton's asking is, it says here presupposition. Yes. And presupposition is something that we presuppose, but we do not affirm is necessarily true. Are you saying that God is just a presupposition, or that God is a precondition for truth?
Are you trying to run tag?
I'm sorry?
Are you trying to run tag?
What does that mean?
Tag are the transcendental arguments for the existence of God. And this is a version of transcendental argument. Basically, it seems like you're saying, and I just want to understand this because I think we have a fundamental disagreement. Let's say it's true that I am holding a watch in my hand. How does God relate to that statement being true?
Good question. Well, I thought that it would get into like the epistemology of knowing, like if anything is true.
No, that's not really
I feel
epistemology.
Like you have to, yeah.
We're talking about, so like, I picked up my watch and I'm holding it in my hand.
Yes.
If God is tied to truth, all I'm wondering is, how does God relate to that statement? Because it sounds like you're saying no statement, including that one, could possibly be true if it weren't for the fact that a God is there. If that's what you're saying, I not only don't understand it, but I disagree with it, because for me, the only thing that's required for X to be true is for X to actually be. And while we have limits on what we can detect and verify, I don't see any path to absolute certainty, perfect confidence. And so if the only thing required for X to be true is for it to be actual, that's separate from, is it true, is separate from, can we tell that it's true, or to what extent could we be confident that it's true? And so while I am literally holding in my hand this watch, and I am convinced that it is actually true that I am holding in my hand this watch, I recognize that I don't have a solution to the problem of hard solipsism, and so that everything is based on the primacy of reason. I'm assuming reason is reasonable, and it's a pragmatic assumption that I'm getting an actual data from reality. And so my confidence level is maximal, but not perfect. But I don't know anywhere in there where a God, even proposing a God, helps me change what I do and don't understand about me holding this watch being true.
That's a really good point. I actually haven't thought of it that way before, so.
Okay. Well, you want to set that aside and try something else?
To be honest, that's really all I had, was that, okay. And that God is a fundamental value. What do you think of that definition of it?
what does it mean to be a fundamental value?
To base my other values on this other value, more like lower down.
I don't understand. I mean, is it? I promise I'm not trying to be difficult. I really am just always seeking clarity, but I don't tend to. Go ahead.
It sounds, I don't know. Maybe it sounds like what you're saying is that you derive your moral. Are you saying you derive your moral values from God?
Yes, but I think they're like one and the same as well. I don't know if that's like
your moral value. You think your moral values are God?
Yeah, and like in that same vein, I would say that everyone has their own personal God.
Okay. So there's no like, sorry, I'm trying to make this not more confusing. So you believe everybody has their own personal God. But that suggests that you don't think these gods exist. How's it different?
Oh, why that?
Well, are you suggesting, let's say there's 8 billion people right now on Earth. Are you suggesting there's 8 billion gods?
Yeah, I would, yeah, to be consistent, yes.
If those gods, the people don't agree on what those gods think, do those gods exist, or are they just people's opinions about a god?
I would say they do exist, and I think they can also exist interpersonally on agreed.
So why doesn't my God destroy your God right now?
Well, I'm open-minded to that. I mean, I don't know.
I don't actually have a God, but if I had a God, my God would want to be supreme and would destroy every false god out there. And since my God would be supreme, all other gods would be false gods. So why doesn't my God run around destroying everybody's God?
That's a good question. Well, I sort of just figured, I guess, which is not very good to say, but that I mean, do you think you could define your God in such a way that like there would be no way of me reconciling my God to it?
Yes, my God despises your God and wants it to stop existing. My God is also capable of making your God stop existing. There, define your God to avoid that.
Well, I don't think I could, to be honest.
I don't think you could either. I just literally defined it so that you can't.
Right.
And so if all of us have our own God and they're all real, then my God just killed your God and your God's not real anymore.
We all have moral values. Why are we calling our moral values God? Why not just say we have moral values? Why make that go the extra step and say our moral values are gods?
Well, that's also a good question. I haven't really thought too deeply on that particular aspect of it, so I'm unprepared for that.
Okay. I'm wondering, I guess we have to take a step back. If everybody, I apologize, Franklin, because like you're one of the only people in the 22 years that I've done this who's literally suggested that every single person has their own God and they're real. And so
Mm-hmm.
you realize that there are, wasn't, granted, I made up a God that despises all the other ones, but there are tons of organized religions out there. And if each individual person within that organized religion has their own version of that God, and then there are versions of all the other gods and all the other religions, how can it be that those gods, some of which are going to be mutually exclusive, like not all of them, but some of them are going to be like, I am the Lord thy God, you will have no other gods before me. How do we resolve that? Because to me, the question I'd love to ask you, you've already avoided. Because if everybody thinks they have their own God, then the question is, how do we tell which one's real? But you shortcutted that by saying they're all real. Okay, so I guess the question is, what evidence do you have that anybody's God is actually real? That's better.
That's a good question. Well, so I guess I would I think I'm using the same logic to determine that as to determine that everyone has their own sentience. Because I know, obviously, that I am, and I take it on other people's word that everyone else isn't, a robot. So if I have my own
that's your mistake.
Values,
so,
okay.
So first of all, you said you use the same logic. There's only logic. There's not my logic, your logic. Colloquially, I think what you mean is you're making an argument that is analogous to your solution to the problem of solipsism. You're as Descartes pointed out, I think, therefore I am, which means you can be sure that you exist even if you don't know anything about how you exist. You could be a brain in a vat, you could be experiencing a simulation. But when you say you take your other people's word for the fact that they're also experiencing this, cool. I don't think that's enough to solve solipsism.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are ways to do it. Like, for example, my solution to the problem of hard solipsism is that if I'm right, then if I'm in fact the only mind, then I am responsible for every great song and every terrible song, every great caller and every terrible caller. I'm responsible for every argument that has irritated me and every brilliant thing that I've discovered. I'm responsible for actually teaching myself everything I've learned, and yet there's evidence that other people knew it before I did. And that, to me, is an overwhelming realm of arrogance that suggests it would be absolutely stupid to think that solipsism were true. However, I can't do that for people's God claims because I see no evidence that anybody's God is real. I see evidence for sure that I am real. I just don't necessarily know what that means. But I believe things that I have found out I was wrong about. And because of that, when I used to believe in a God, are you suggesting that my God used to be real but stopped being real?
Well, can I answer your question with a question?
Probably not, but you can do it.
Okay. Well, even if I am the only mind, I hold a fundamental value. Would you say that everyone has a fundamental value?
I don't know what you mean. Do you mean that so value is necessarily subjective. It is based on, it is specifically based on desire. This watch that I was holding has some value to me. It has a different value to somebody else. It has absolutely no value to some people. And so I don't think that anything has intrinsic value. I think value is something that we imbue items with, and that we determine what the value of our lives are, and we have different assessments of how valuable other people are. So as a humanist, I advocate for beginning with the default assumption that all life should be valued, even as just a pragmatic thing, that I can't expect anybody to value my life if I don't value theirs. But that's different from saying there's intrinsic value. So were you saying we had intrinsic value or that we have value?
That's a good point. I mean, I agree with what you said. I would also hold that. I would hold that value, but I mean, I also value the truth.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
But there are people who don't.
So that is true. I am, now that I'm thinking
Which
about
means
it.
The truth doesn't seem to have any intrinsic value.
Right.
It has, I think, objectively benefits. For example, as far as we can tell, if I'm walking across the street and it's true that there's a bus coming, that would be valuable information if I care about my life. But
yes, it would.
But, maybe I'm intentionally, trying to get hit by a bus to collect insurance or whatever. The point is, I was just wondering what type of value you were suggesting everyone had. Because if we're in agreement that we should, this is the second time this week I've mentioned the veil of ignorance. For those who don't know, since I didn't describe it the first time, the veil of ignorance is a philosophical concept from John Rawls that I think is probably one of the single greatest epiphanies you can drive into your head, which is, and it applies financial systems, moral systems, virtually anything where there's some sort of value assessment. Design the system that you want to live in, not knowing who you will be in that system. Is your system going to allow slavery? Remember, you could come in as a slave owner or a slave. Is your system going to allow abortion rights? Remember, you could be anybody in this scenario. Is your system going to allow the freedom to guide your own life and make your decisions, and to what extent, and how free are you? All of those things have to be done considering you don't necessarily know who you are. And what that does is it removes the partial, the bias. It's like saying, here's a big cake, and we want to divide this cake up amongst all the people in this room. The best way to do it is to let one person cut the cake, and they get to pick last. And if we begin with this assumption that everybody would like a roughly equal sized piece of cake, that is going to encourage the individual cutting the cake to make sure that they do it as evenly as possible so that they get a piece just as big as anybody else's. You're going to get, anarchists and chaos fans coming up with, bullshit scenarios. But in reality, if we're going to value fairness and we want to be included in the fairness, that's a perfect solution. I'm going to give you the knife, you cut the cake, and you pick last. Probably going to be pretty fair.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fair. I've never heard of this veil of ignorance thing, so I'm going to look that up as well.
John Rawls, I highly recommend his writing and several others. There's a lot of philosophers that have done work, in ethics and in morality and epistemology. I mean, you had some good starts to stuff. When I make I won't be making a thumbnail of this, but when Arden makes a thumbnail of this, I think I'm going to ask that she just puts, that's a good point, in the thumbnail, because I like the fact that, unlike a lot of other people, you not only recognized it, but it commented on it. And I genuinely think you're going to go off and think about it. And I'm pretty confident that when you come up with a good justification for your version of a God being real and warranted as a rational position, I'm pretty sure you'll call us back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I for sure will. Both of those things.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Franklin. If you haven't got anything else, I got one more call I want to get to, but I appreciate the call.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Doesn't always happen, but it's really nice to get a good theist call.
Yeah, I almost don't want to take the next call, but we will. Quick note, once we're done with this next call, Dalton and I will be reading super chats, and I think I haven't even looked. I'm going to assume that we're going to take all of them
Over 10.
Over 10. That's what we're set at right now, for all of them over 10. And that was the producer basically saying, don't you dare take all of them over 5. I got shit to do, and it's all good. All right. Are we ready for the final call of today? This is Michael, pronouncing him as an atheist, calling from Cali, and has a question about the need for God, the need of God for society. Hey, Michael, how you doing?
What's happening, Matt? Dalton? How's it going, gentlemen?
Howdy, partner.
So, the title of the live stream, I believe, is Do We Need God? And I thought that would be an interesting conversation, but there is a couple of key things you were hitting on in that last conversation with Franklin that I thought was pretty awesome and that I would like to elaborate on a little more.
See, here I was just
okay
going to dump all over
first?
you right now, but you said it was awesome, so I'll let you keep going.
Great. So he was talking about intrinsic value and that being a god, and you were bringing up a pretty interesting point of us all having gods, and why don't your god just destroy other people's gods? Am I following that correct?
I guess, yeah.
So I think I have a pretty similar standpoint on him, just not in the not in the regards of there being a god per se, but I think more, for example, like based off of a society and the values that they have together, there's a sort of metaphysical representation of those non-corporeal factors in reality, like belief, like consciousness. Does that track?
Saying you're a Platonist?
You'd have to do it again. I'm sorry. I got distracted or I missed a point somehow.
You believe in forms and stuff like that?
One more time, sir?
Are you a Platonist who like believes in forms?
Platonist would be like Plato's philosophy, right?
Yes.
I would say somewhat, but I don't think those forms, or like in a religious person's point of view, where forms or have a direct effect on reality. I think reality more or less affects that sort of metaphysical form plane where ideas exist.
I'm afraid I don't quite follow.
It's okay. So, for example, like the topic, title of the video is "Do We Need God?" and how I want to talk about that being in society. I feel like this ties into it a little bit. Where, as far as I understand, the concept of religion, or at least religious beliefs, predates modern forms of society. I think archaeologically, it's something like 100,000 years is the furthest that we can push any sort of like dogmatic or religious views. So I kind of come from a place, and I'm interested on your response on this, or at least your take on this. Where
Michael,
go ahead.
Did you call in earlier with a different definition of God, that God is a fundamental value and the presupposition?
No, that was a screening issue.
No, I'm not Franklin.
Okay, that's what I thought. My screening thing went sideways. Okay, so when we post a question,
I got confused with Franklin when I was being screened too. So I don't blame you guys.
So when we post a question like, "Do we need God?" I'm not really looking for atheists to call in and give their opinion on whether we need God, because I presume that atheists are going to say no. But for clarity, you're an atheist. Are you saying we do need God?
I'm saying that overall society does, not individuals.
I don't understand what the justification for that is. Are you saying that a significant portion of society is incapable of learning something without pretending there's a God?
No, not that they're incapable of learning without pretending that there's a God. Just it helps having a guideline for a moral structure and the justification of a big boogeyman who's going to punish you if you don't follow along. I think that is the justification.
I think that's kind
sounds
of
like you just answered my question with yes.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just shitting on these people. You're saying that they're just not capable of doing the things that we're capable of doing. I think they are.
Yet again, we're capable of doing it because we come from a long line of cultures that descend from religious structures.
No, I fucking don't. You're suggesting
I don't mean to offend you. I don't mean to offend you. I'm sorry.
Stop talking and listen. You're suggesting that my understanding of morality and ethics is because I come from a long line of God believers?
I mean, the majority of your ancestry, yeah. Majority of your culture, I guess so.
I'm sorry. What does my ancestry have to do with my understanding of morals and ethics?
Well, it's a domino game. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be that last piece in the domino being knocked over without the other ones falling towards you.
No. I'm talking about understanding something. You're suggesting that I couldn't understand. Are you saying that I can only understand what's wrong with Christianity because I used to think it was right, and Christianity taught me that? What taught me it was wrong?
No. I think because of the society we live in, it produces free thinkers. So you're allowed to question where our society comes from, and I think that's awesome. You know what I mean?
I'm asking. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I'm taking a break so that you don't piss me off with this incredibly arrogant, condescending, dismissive notion that
I don't mean to come
there
off
are
as
some
rude
people.
and
I don't know why you're speaking. That's a really bad fucking idea right now. That there are some people who, raised around a particular culture or not, can come to understand something, and other people can only come to understand it with the help of a God, or believing there's a God, or pretending there's a God. Where's the evidence for that? Because it just sounds incredibly condescending that you didn't need a God, and maybe Matt didn't need a God, but the peons do.
Okay, so I don't mean to come off as arrogant, and I'm not trying to make a truth claim. But from what I understand about a lot of people, is most people don't have time to be interested in, philosophy or in theology. So it's easy to give somebody just a guideline for them to focus on their own lives without having to develop, their own rationale for the natural world.
Michael.
Yes.
I would agree that it is occasionally easier to convince someone to behave with a threat or a boogeyman, but that doesn't mean that it's required or good. What is your case? If all you're doing is calling in to say, hey, you know what? You can get people to behave by putting a gun to their head, I already fucking knew that.
I mean, I wouldn't quite call religion a gun to the head, but I see where you're getting at, because I was saying to get them to behave, to get them to follow a moral guideline, a shared value system. But
you wouldn't call it a gun to the head because you're not honestly assessing your own argument when I challenge it. It's absolutely under, let's say, for example, Christianity. Am I threatened with either annihilation or eternal suffering?
In Christianity, you are threatened with eternal suffering, correct?
or annihilation. You don't get to decide. There are Christians that buy, wow. Which is better, a gun to your head or eternal suffering?
I would say neither one, but
Yeah, of course you would,
I don't know.
because you're
I
not
don't think that's
fucking honest
representing
in
my.
this. I have nothing
Okay.
else.
All right, Mike. Well,
Why are you
you're-
laughing,
Matt-
Michael? No. Shut up,
I
prick.
find it.
Why
I
are
find
you
it.
laughing?
I find it kind of humorous because I don't. I've
Why are
been
you
nothing but
laughing?
polite, but you're jumping the gun on being rude. But I can understand. You're coming
No.
towards
I
the end
didn't
of
jump the gun on being rude. Myself and Dalton and the people in chat and those of us who've done this for a while have heard this absolutely pedestrian, I'm a beginner and I've just started thinking about this stuff. And I'm so happy with how smart I am and how I've gotten past all of this. But I recognize that despite the fact that I don't need a God, there are people out there, the plebes, who still need a God. And even if they don't completely need a God, it's just too much effort for us to actually bother to teach them or justify anything. So I'm just going to go with my feels instead of my, evidence. And then when I get called out on it, I'm going to ha 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 and laugh at being a smug prick to people and pretend that the person who's calling me out for being a condescending smug prick is the actual smug prick. Gosh, ha ha ha. Go away, Michael. Be better. All right.
Yeah, I
Hi.
hate that condescending viewpoint. I've heard it a few times now.
It's one of my absolute pet peeves. If I wasn't in my year of Zen, there would have been massive yelling at that dipshittery.
Well, you're
Because
doing very good, Matt.
thank you. Here's the thing. I'm a skeptic. That determines how I go about figuring out what's likely to be real, what is reasonable to believe, etc. And I'm a humanist. That's about how I live, how I evaluate things. And I've gotten lots and lots of things wrong. In the decades that I've done this, I've definitely learned some lesson. And there's times to be glib. Like I had a bumper sticker once that said, you pray for me, I'll think for you. I think that's a funny, potentially clever retort. But the reality is, once upon a time, I shared those same beliefs that those people did. I was indoctrinated, and I found my way out, but not everybody can, given the situation they're in. Some people need assistance. And while some of us are sitting here trying to give assistance and recognizing that we don't have the answers, we aren't necessarily right, but what we're trying to do is determine, is this a reasonable belief? Is it rational to hold this view? And if not, we need to help people. And yes, I think starting with kindness is a good thing. And I think, and I said this today, I think after kindness, then comes tough love. And then after tough love, it's time to raise, with a Z, the walls that are preventing improvement in character, in intellect, in compassion, in empathy. And that's why I am occasionally viewed as an absolute asshole. Because I will start with kindness, and depending on how asinine the initial response is, that determines how long I spend in tough love. You're still in tough love, Michael. I haven't, in my year of Zen, I don't know how many walls I'll be raising. But what I do know is that every time one of you self-righteous, smug pricks try to call in with your epiphany about what the world needs, and it is an arrogant dismissal, lacking of compassion, lacking of kindness to start with, just, ooh. Or if it's absolutely pedestrian, like, some people will respond to a gun to their head, but I wouldn't call Christianity a gun to the head. No, of course not. It's worse than a gun to your head. When it is I want to be a co-host here. Let me tell you my book report about it. You're boring the shit out of me. You think if Dalton did the stuff like that, I would have ever invited him on here? Dalton's great. I should shut up. I was having fun today, but I should have absolutely shut up more. Dalton, come back and do more shows with me because I want to gradually get better at just letting you run rampant. But I still, even after decades of doing this, still love doing it. Can't not do it. I literally typed something in chat for one of these calls. I was like, Dalton, you take this and I'll only jump in if I can't stop myself. And it was literally like 2 sentences from the caller before I was in. And Arden called me out and I'll fucking own it. But I love doing it. But I absolutely despise. The atheist community isn't sufficiently skeptical enough to suit me. And the skeptical community isn't sufficiently atheistic enough to suit me. The fact that the skeptical community isn't atheistic enough, it's a little bit of a annoyance. But the fact that the atheist community isn't sufficiently skeptical is a source of constant embarrassment. And it's why I find myself arguing with, correcting, and exposing absolute bullshit, smug, non-skeptical atheists. And it's why we get calls from people who are like, I used to be an atheist. Yeah, but were you a skeptic? Well, I was skeptical enough about... No, that's a no. I heard you. That's a no. I'd highly recommend that some of you look into the basics of skepticism. But if you think that there are people out there, a significant group of people, who need people around them to reinforce a delusion of a God belief in order to be better people, not only do you not know much about how belief works, but also you don't know how much about how religion works. Because from what I've seen, neither Christianity, nor Judaism, nor Hinduism, nor Islam are actually making people better. If anything, they're taking good people and making them worse. All right.
Yeah.
Stupid
We're
chat.
not special.
Oh my gosh. I see. There's the little thing here. You want to go first or second?
I'll go second. You go first.
Cool. Dante Verona. Hey man, how you doing? $10. Thank you. I cannot say enough bad things about Lindsey Graham. It's so nice whenever I have to hear from him ever again. I'm not the least bit sorry about it. Yeah, I said pretty much the same thing. I couldn't agree more.
Rest in pieces. And at Billy Sipes with the $50, I am not a Christian, but I am working on selling everything off to donate to people who need it, or who will do good with it.
Yeah.
W to Billy Sipes.
And this is the wild thing. Well, nah, I will continue on the super chats. Atheist Mechanic, $10. Thanks, Billy. Not proud of my country, certainly embarrassed by this government, barely hanging on hope for the future. Be safe, friends. Are you setting these live, Dalton, or is Arden doing it, or am I doing it?
Arden's doing it.
I've been doing it, but you can if you want to.
Okay. I will do that once I clear that one out. There's the next one.
At Black Non-Believers Inc. saying, thanks for all that you do with the $10. Hey, thank you for your patronage.
Greg Markowski, $10. Thank you so much, buddy. Matt is the Professor Kingsfield of logic. Now, see, I don't know who Professor Kingsfield is. Why do I feel like that's like one of the most embarrassing things I could admit to?
I don't know who it is, so, that's fine. At Weston Campbell with the $20, an accurate understanding of reality as skeptically possible is the nightmare that has people believing in man-made mythologies. I wouldn't want to be so dim that I couldn't have empathy as to ignore the suffering here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, I don't think anybody needed a God to tell them that murder was wrong. I think all you needed to know was, I'd rather not be murdered. And I'd rather not see the people that I love get murdered, and it
I
seems
knew
to be in our best interest. Huh?
as a child, I knew it was wrong to hurt people ever before my parents got religious, before I even knew who Jesus was. I knew that it was wrong to hurt people. It had nothing to do with God.
Yeah. And yet people suggest, oh, well, you would have, they can't make the case that you only know that because God has revealed it to you. Instead, they have to take an extra step, which is, oh, it's only the case that that's wrong because there's a God that embodies it, not divine command theory, but his essence, his character. Murder is inconsistent with his character. And I'm like, then the Bible is inconsistent with his character, because that book is full of God doing all kind of murder. Well, not murder, because murder is a legal concept that is separate from the moral concept. So we'll just say wrongful death, because that's straight out of Silence of the Lambs. Tree Thinking 666, we didn't do at all to the traitors Confederates. I'm just going to say thanks. I think I know what you meant.
Yeah. At Weston Campbell again with the $10. Josh is a perfect example as to someone who has to cut off point to his delusion. He will follow the evidence when his brain chemistry has him wanting to commit a felonious act, but not seek help before. Josh was
I think that Josh isn't real. I think that Josh is not sincere, I should say. Not he's real. I think he's not sincere.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. Not a sincere bone in his body.
It's one of the things, and we've addressed it many times. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But when I have a caller on the phone, there's almost nothing they could say that is so ridiculous it becomes obvious that they're not actually sincere, not right away. I have genuinely met in person and had lengthy conversations with people who believe the most bizarre stuff that some of it's like fractally wrong. It's wrong at every conceivable resolution. And some of it is gibberish. Like I have no idea. Somebody actually made a comment on one of my videos yesterday, and maybe I shouldn't read this, but it's out there. It says, Matt, I have disproof of God that also shows why all creationists are liars now and will be in the future. Yes, they are all liars. They have to be. I can actually prove it. The cumulative case for God exposes my new fallacy called the dung pile fallacy. This is an upgrade to the standard 10 leaky buckets fallacy. Here's the fallacy. OV VO equals 1. This one is the Boolean truth value. The actual argument is the following. OV VO equals 0. The singular 0 on the right is the Boolean false value. I like to call it the singular 0 of God. We start with this true statement of a bunch of zeros and a logical OR gate equally 0. Next, we apply the symmetric property if A equals B, then B equals A to get 0 equals 0V V0, and then in parentheses V0. The newly appended argument to the dung pile becomes a new part of the logical OR gate. The new argument must contain a fallacy, falsehood, or contradiction of some kind by definition. Thus, all apologists are liars. Please visit my channel for more information. I get stuff like that more often than you guys would suspect. And if you saw it, I don't think it would make much more sense. I have to make decisions when somebody's on the phone. I have to evaluate who I'm talking to, what the likelihood is of making some progress or learning something or teaching somebody something, whether it's the caller or somebody else listening, and then how that impacts all the other people who are on hold and the audience watching. The first thing that happens when I immediately start calling out troll as quickly as people in the chat do is we dump callers too quick to get anywhere, and people get to say, look, they don't want to talk to anybody. Everybody's a troll. Everybody's a troll. Everybody's a troll. Look, they're not interested in honest conversation. So we must do our best to repeatedly steer the conversation to some sort of productive, useful interaction. And it's only when we can't do that that I feel justified letting a caller go. And that's why you've seen me lose my shit for 20 years. Because when you force yourself to care enough to make sure that any reasonable person would know you let go of a liar or a nut job before you actually let them go, you're going to get pissed. Keep watching. Keep watching all my buddies that are really sweet and doing it now. See if they're still doing it in 20 years and how pissed some of them are. I think just watching Seth Andrews start to do more call-in shows has been enlightening for me.
I'm afraid to see where I'll be in 20 years. Oh, this one's your turn.
Oh, is it? Josh,
Yeah.
I read about a lot of Christians that told people to get on the fucking train with ounce on their belt. By the way, hello, new host. I'm liking your commentary with Matt. The cohesion is good. Wow.
Thank you.
Dalton is
Weston.
great on his own, and you should definitely go check out his channel as well. But definitely we'll be having Dalton back because I'm lazy. And I know that for a ton of calls, I could, if I could train myself to do it, just shut up and play a game of chess.
At Billy Sipes with the $50 again. Big W to Billy Sipes. This fucking guy, he's either a lying troll or just a jerk. That was in reference to Josh.
Yeah.
And troll. And both. It's not mutually exclusive. He's a jerk troll.
Yeah, Josh made us some money. So thanks, Josh. Josh the Lesser is out here giving people named Josh, people from Missouri, Christians, and people in their late 30s a bad name. He deserves a medal made of dog droppings, wet dog droppings. Ooh, the first one says doppings, but my brain auto-corrected it, which is great because my text messages are a fucking mess of bad autocorrections for my sloppy swiping.
And Weston again with the $10. Hey, William, if you're in need of a friend, maybe try donating $10 over the course of years to be known as just a silly goose, and which people expect super chats from. That's how I participate. Well, Weston, we see you and we appreciate you.
I would hang out with Weston before William any day of the week. And the thing is, I'd still hang out with William. This is one of those things where the stuff that William wants to talk about, I'm not as interested when I'm off the show because I do so much here. But we could have a conversation. It's just not at all good for the show. People don't tune in to hear an atheist call in to tell them about, a book they read on Marcion. Cool. William, we don't consent to your story. No means no, William. Sad calls today. Y'all put in so much work for some silly people. From Caracal. Thank you, at God Center.
Yeah. At Diamad Hatter with the 10 Canuck bucks to avoid the usual response of, but what if it is beneficial to my group to genocide that other group? I think we should say the goal is the fairness and well-being of all parties involved. What do you think? Yeah, that's basically the veil of ignorance.
Yeah, I think it's easier to describe as the veil of ignorance because the goal of that is to reduce bias. And what you're describing is kind of an injection of bias because somebody might be like, I don't care about fairness. Okay, cool. But the first decision to be made in sort of a veil of ignorance is whose model wins out. And so that forces you to define a model where even if you are the last one to pick which model we're going to go with, you have a shot at getting the one that you like. But it's like I had a conversation with Jovan the other day on his channel about communism, and one of the things that we got to is that it's a completely idealistic view that he's advocating, that can't exist alongside any dissent in the form of like capitalism or whatever else, because they'll just kill the communists and take their shit.
That's pretty historically what's happened.
Yep.
This one's you.
Okay. Totally off topic. Oh, it's Melatonin LA. How probable is it to find an eastern hognose snake in my backyard? I just saw a snake, but it went under my porch. You probably saw. I mean, yeah, it is possible that there's an eastern hognose in your backyard. Yeah. They will appear to be, probably the ones you'll see will look a little like tiny rattlesnakes without rattles, and then they'll do the regular hognose stuff. But it is very probable. I think Arden would back me up on that.
Yep.
Let's see. At Aliashana Silverbow with the $10. I forget it was a $10 threshold, so I'm sending my joke for Matt again. I threw a boomerang months ago. Now I live in constant fear.
Nice. Keep on casting your bread upon the water. Billy Sipes, $100. Wow, last one for the night, gentle people. Thanks a ton, Billy. I look forward to seeing you. As always, it's a pleasure listening to you and your thoughts. Not always the callers, but definitely you. And it was nice to have a good theist caller. It was.
Always nice.
And, you know, I pointed out years ago, I would do this. I would take 1,000 troll calls and confused calls for one sincere person that thinks about it. When I did an event in Amarillo, Texas, there was like a 12-year-old girl whose parents brought her to the debate, and she came up to me afterwards and said that was the night she decided she was an atheist after exploring a bunch of other stuff. And I'll take 1,000 more calls for one more 12-year-old girl that, you know, probably at this point, that's been so many years ago, she's probably ready to come take my job. Be nice. Thanks, Billy.
At Jason Ray with the $20. I've been an atheist for about 20 years, and I'm thinking about pretending to be a Christian and going back to church. I miss the community.
Oh, no.
I can't get that in an atheist community. I don't have any friends. I get depressed.
Okay.
I listen, I don't have a working car right now. I haven't been able to leave the house in months. I get lots of community online. Maybe that's not sufficient for other people. Maybe it would be for you, but there's also reaching out to your local community and seeing if there's anyone else like yourself, and you can be the founder of your own secular community in your own community. Houston's got what, the Oasis place where they have it's like church but secular. You can do something like that. You don't need God, you don't need Christianity, you don't need church to have that community.
I'm a weird one. So, Jason, first let me say I'm sorry that you're dealing with depression and loneliness and that you miss the community. There are lots of other options for community without a church, but I'll tell you this. If somebody told me I can't find any community and I'm going to keep going to church to hang out with that community, I'd rather you have some community than none. I don't think it's generally good for people to be alone, but I will say that not only is there Recovering from Religion and the Secular Therapy Project, but there are a number of Oasis and Sunday Assembly and Skeptics in the Pub and online communities that have real in-person, in-meet space gatherings. There aren't as many conventions as there used to be because COVID kind of squashed a bunch of that. But not only will there be NanoCon at the end of this month, which I will be at, but also on August 21st through 23rd, there's Baja Con in Sarnia, Ontario. AHA Con is on September 19th. Rocket City Reason is in Huntsville, Alabama, October 23rd through 25th. And the Black Non-Believers C-Con is November 28th through December 6th. That's a whole cruise. I don't know where you are or what the options are. If you need to have that kind of community, you don't have to pretend to be a Christian. I would start, if you cannot find a secular community that's to your liking, I would start with the Unitarian Universalist Church, because you don't have to pretend to be anything to participate there. It's not just like a non-denominational Christian. It is a church that welcomes humanists, and I don't enjoy going because the religion is so watered down as to be vapid, and the community stuff is great, but I have a hard time saying it's okay to believe irrational things. I get that some people are going to, but I would definitely start with Unitarian Universalists, and some, ethical societies. There's probably a good list. We should probably have a good list, but I would reach out to Recovering from Religion and ask if they have a list of recommendations for communities, religious or otherwise, that they think would be a good fit, and they will know more maybe in your area. And if not, reach out to the national organizations to see if they have a list of communities, like American Atheists has state directors, etc. I don't know that I gave you anything useful, but when I see somebody, it's like, oh, I miss the community and I'm lonely and depressed. I don't want to just say, oh, I hope you find something. I want to at least give something. I genuinely hope you do find something. Nick White, when talking to theists, what's the best way you found to convey why unfalsifiable claims are not useful? Love the show. Keep up the good work. I don't know that I have found a best way. I
guess
I think you just have to teach it. Like, I don't know how to teach it anyway, other than just, hey, if there's a claim and you have no way to show that it could be false, what conclusion are you ever going to reach? Because if you can't show that it could be false, does that mean you just have to assume that it's true? And then you get to a point where you would be assuming competing views, conflicting views are true. And then you would be in the position of both believing A and not A at the same time. And that's completely untenable. And so better to say, I'm unconvinced. I know it must be A or not A, because those are the only two options for everything. I'm just not convinced I know which one it is. And until there's a way to show that it can't be this one, I can't possibly pick the other. I guess that's as close as I can get.
At Soapy42, with the $10, short and sweet, what are your thoughts on the Satanic Temple and their tenets? I often, sometimes as an exercise on my show, we'll bring up the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple and ask Christians if they disagree with any of them. And then we compare them to the 10 Commandments. Now, I think that the Satanic Temple is interesting, and that they do some good work out there. I think it is a little bit cringy, and I don't want to offend. I'm sorry if I offend anyone who's a member of the TST, but it's not for me. I'll say that. But I think it has its uses, but it's a little bit cringy.
I've had, I don't know, debates and mild conflicts with Satanic Temple, and Is Lucian still in charge?
Lucian Greaves?
Yeah.
No idea.
Lucian and I, one of these days we should, probably have more of a conversation. Like I genuinely don't know how much of a conversation we have or haven't had. I know I called him out for like rubbing his dick on Fred Phelps's mom's grave. Because I don't like they do a lot of great stuff that works on church-state separation, and if we're going to put religion in the schools, Satanic Temple is the first one to jump in, and that's great. And the overwhelming majority of their positions, I'm probably in agreement with. It's just I don't find the label particularly effective. I guess I'm with Dalton that it's kind of cringy because
it's a lot of baggage to explain away. Oh, I don't actually believe in Satan. I just use it as a mascot, and it's a lot of explaining. And then it's an image problem.
Imagine, and I know we get some people who are kind of like this, but imagine we're sitting here and somebody says, "Hey, I'm calling in. I'm a Christian. I don't actually believe in a God. I don't actually believe in the Christian God. I'm just a Christian because I like the values of Christianity." And then we start asking about the values of Christianity they like, and they either don't know or they aren't values that are tied expressly to Christianity. So it's like, "Oh, I really like the concept of forgiveness." Yeah, but you can forgive people without, being Christian or identifying that way. Eventually you'd get down to, oh, okay, I like humanism in these things, but I have my own view. Why am I calling myself a Christian? And why am I adding to the confusion when the overwhelming majority of people who call themselves Christians believe that Jesus is the risen Son, divine God incarnate, blah, 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 however you want to phrase it. It's the same reason I object to the term spirituality. I have no idea what it actually means, and it means so many different things to so many different people. I think it's a mistake for us to assume when somebody says, "Oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual," that we have the slightest fucking clue what they mean by that. I don't think that obviously the supernatural stuff I don't think is real, but if you remove all of that, literally, I hashed this out with Britt, with other people, and I'm like, hey, the thing you're in favor of, whatever it is, because it's going to be different from person to person, the thing you're calling spirituality, to the extent that it's real and useful, I agree. But why call it spirituality? Why add all of that baggage? And so I don't need the satanic baggage.
Yeah. I'll say if anyone is interested to learn more about the Satanic Temple from someone who's not a member, but also not against it, like a non-biased perspective, Speak of the Devil by Joseph P. Laycock is a good read.
Joe started on Smug Theist and ended on Smug the Atheist, trying to top them. Good show, though. Love to chat. And the host from Caracal. Thank you so much, Kara.
Yeah, that is good. At the Atheist Mechanic with the $10, I keep hearing this audio on TikTok, but I love it. I would never worship or follow a being that would send a person to suffer eternal torture and burning for the simple act of non-belief. Oh yeah, that was from I think that was from a Jubilee episode, and the guy was a member of the TST, a Satanist, and he said that.
There you go.
It's quite catchy. Yeah,
it reminds me of Groucho Marx. I'd never be a member of a club that would have me as a member. I guess Michael doesn't know about all the Catholic priests and funding organizations like the IBLP who commit and cover up horrible crimes against children. Yeah.
Yeah, ignorant. Yeah. At Joseph Everett with the $10, I love to see Dalton and Justin on this show. My Bible knowledge is maybe 10% of what they have. I thought I was doing well knowing roughly 30% of what Matt knows. You guys make me pull the books off the shelf. Well, that's why we do what we do, in order to help like the democratization of information and scholarship. Everyone should read their Bibles. It's the best way to become an atheist.
I don't want to go do the math, but I'm pretty sure Joshua just quantified how much I know compared to how much you and Justin know.
I don't want to touch that one with a 10-foot pole.
No, I think I might have got upgraded there because, in all honesty, I've forgotten a ton of stuff that I used to know. There were things. If bits of Bible knowledge aren't either something that was important to me in deconstructing or in helping somebody else, or if they're not useful for a particular argument, like I'll never forget 1 Peter 3:15, but I'll also never forget John 3:16, even though that's not useful for me for arguing, but that was drilled into my head. I'm unlikely to forget like Micah 6:8, because that's one, despite reading the Bible multiple times, it's one that was drilled into me relatively recently, like within the last probably 4 or 5 years, because I didn't spend much time studying Judaism. I remember when I ran across this passage, it was from a secular Jewish, someone speaking at a secular Jewish temple, but I can't remember which one, who was basically saying, if the God of the New Testament is the same as the God of the Old Testament, and what we have on record of what the God of the Old Testament wants and expects, being kindness, compassion, etc., boom, 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 those things, then the God of the New Testament can't be the same as the God of the Old Testament, because they seek different things. If this is all that the Lord will ask of you, and then all of a sudden there's more, even perhaps simple things like go ye therefore unto all of, blah, blah, blah. Even a Great Commission is more, because that's not just, hey, do just things and love mercy and walk humbly with your God, isn't the same thing as God sending you out. So the mere Great Commission might be in conflict with that passage from Micah. And it's one of the reasons why I would argue that, and I'm zero expert, why not all Jews are Messianic Jews. That they take to heart some passages that are very clear about who God is and what he wants. Because as far as I know, Judaism's just full of fuck tons of vagaries. Like, what happens when you're dead? Oh, you sleep with your fathers. Well, are you alive? Are you not alive? Are you in some stasis? Are you, it's not clear. And Christianity, in its attempt to fill in the gaps, not only in scientific knowledge, but perhaps in Jewish teaching, really fucked it all up.
A favorite of mine to bring up, which is very similar to this, is Amos 3:7, that the Lord God does nothing without first revealing it to his servants, the prophets. So if there's a theology you find in the New Testament that you can't find foretold by the prophets in the Old Testament, it's probably not from God.
But also, that means that everybody that's running around claiming something, if they didn't find someone who made the prediction ahead of time, like, for example, if God decided he was going to come down and reveal himself to an entire community, even if it actually happened, nobody should believe it if there wasn't a prophet that predicted it, because God's not going to do anything without revealing it to the prophets first.
Yeah, someone pointed that out to me very recently as well.
Awesome possum. I forgot, is it me or you?
It's you.
It's always me. I've never killed anyone, but I have read some obituary notices with great satisfaction. Clarence Darrow, not Mark Twain. I looked it up on WikiQuote. Yeah, I've heard it's attributed there as well. Not the obituary I was looking for, but I'll take it. Oh, okay. So, Michaela Albertson, thank you for the $10. Please discuss Hassan's 7-7 tweet about Mitch. Said he hasn't denied it because he cracked his turtle shell too hard. I love rage baiting the right. I think, if I'm correct, what you're talking about is Hassan Piker saying that he'd been having gay sex with Mitch McConnell, and that the fact that Mitch McConnell hadn't denied it was confirmation it was true.
Yes.
Or something along those. Okay. I find some of those things amusing a little bit. I do have concerns. I don't want, I need my gay friends, and I need my gay friends to say that shit like that is okay, because I don't want to use them for a prop. I don't want to be using any marginalized community as a prop that could cause more harm to them. That said, I think the notion that Lindsey Graham was a self-hating old queer is obvious based on the available information, though not absolutely certain. And I liked that Hassan did something amusing with regard to Mitch McConnell. I just think that there's an option to do a couple of different things. Like, I think I loved more the people pointing out that he's getting health care and time off while also drawing an income, all things that he actively tried to deny people while he's been in the Senate.
At Weston Campbell with the $10. At Jason Ray, at my loneliest, I went to a Chinese International Baptist church. Half of my dad's ancestry learned to read and write off the Bible, and that's the same way I am learning to read Hanzi. Well, there you go.
I put my Hanzi in my glovesies.
Oh, God.
No one goes to hell. $50. Thank you so much. That's incredibly kind. I just started watching Line like 3 weeks ago. I love this show. Matt and Promise were on the first video I watched, and I was hooked. I'm a former Christian, suffered a long time alone in rejecting the Bible. I wish I knew you all sooner. Well, we're glad you know us now. If you knew us sooner, you might have moved on already. But you're getting here at exactly the right time.
And at Billy Sipes, today's episode has been brought to you by Billy Sipes, everyone, with the $50. I lied just a touch. One more, but this is very important. Please be careful out there, folks. Everywhere, but especially in Texas, someone close to my family was detained and put into handcuffs in front of her family by ICE. Yeah. Texas, not a big fan of it right now. And I'm saying that as born and bred.
And I'm saying there, I live here right now in Texas. Thanks a ton, Billy. Greatly appreciated. Look, huge thanks to Dalton for joining me tonight, and for, by the way, the lovely and talented Miss Alden down the hall there. How you doing?
I mean, I think you could have had a couple more adjectives in there, but I'll take it.
Oh, I have lots and lots of adjectives for you. But I'm not going to go into them now because it's nobody's business. In any case, big thank you to all of our mods, all of our call screeners, the producer, everybody who's contributing, every one of the callers, including the ones that I thought were smug pricks and aggravated me, because you still give me the opportunity to make points so that all of us can try and do it better. I don't always do it the best. I think I mainly maintain my zen. And if not, I guess we'll put a poll up and maybe I'll have to donate some money. But go watch Dalton. Come back and watch us both. Watch us hang out more. Watch all the people. Do all the things. Try to be good. Try to help the world. Gosh, patreon.com/call the line. What more do you need?